Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this go up. You know it's all net when it go up. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand, ayy. We on overtime, you don't need to understand, ayy. You just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play. Moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing, keep it moving, what we doing. Cause it can get bigger, cause it can get please don't play no games with me, I promise I'm too much. Ay, I can never let up even if you had enough. Ay, this ain't for the faint of heart, we always playing rough. I had enough, it ain't luck. I needed a vision, I needed ambition, I needed a mission to beat in submission with no intermission. I see the collision, the crash in the distance, they coming off track, no. Now when they ask what's the motive, don't talk like the show them. They all about to see what I mean in the moment. I gotta keep going, I'm shaking the dice and I'm keeping it rolling, they already know. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand, ayy. We on overtime, you don't need to understand, ayy. You just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play. So moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing, keep it moving, what we doing. Cause it can get bigger, cause it can get bigger, cause it can get bigger.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are back at it with another segment that we're about to put in. Shout out to the Boxing family, to the community, everybody who's in the building right now. Shout out to Chris Legg, already started the morning off, throwing some color in the chat. That's always a good look to see. You know what I mean? Shout out for the support to the channel, for the color in the chat right there. Shout out to my guy Shelton Moore. I know we're creeping in the building. I think there's a couple other people going live right now. Biz might be up right now, you know what I mean? Boxing Boys, all those channels, you know, doing their thing out there. So I appreciate you guys being here. A lot to talk about today, obviously, right? Well, what is it? The Gervonta Tank Davis, Jake Paul press conference kicked off yesterday. We'll be, you know, obviously we're going to be talking about that. That's on the thumbnail, right? Talk a little bit about Xander Zayas, some Puerto Rico fights that happened over the weekend. We're going into some fights this weekend as well. Pro Box, Najee Lopez will be showing up this weekend, a fight I'm looking forward to see as well. And Undercard, I believe, gets announced this morning for this Tank Davis, Jake Paul Netflix card that's going to be going up. One of the fights on the card already kind of anticipated it as far as Gary Antoine Russell and Andy Hiroka, you know, anticipated that one. We heard that through Gary Antoine Russell's brother, who was on the show about a week or so ago, who announced that he expected his brother to be on that undercard. And then we have some females. Alicia Baumgardner is going to be on the card as well. Undercard. We'll talk about the undercard. I mean, I am excited for the Gary Antoine Russell, Haney Hiroka fight. That's a fight, you know, that I think is going to be a real exciting, good fight. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight for Gary Antoine at all, but you know, we'll talk about it, right? But I don't know. We'll talk about the undercard and see if it really is garnering the attention. Is it going to sell? Is it worth it? Yesterday's press conference was an interesting press conference, of course. Whenever you see Gervonta Tank Davis at a press conference building up his fight as of late, especially since this year specifically, since that Frank Martin press conference, has been kind of like a downhill move with him in these press conferences. A lot of information, you know, I think a lot of people are anticipating and waiting at the edge of their seat for one day to Gervonta Tank Davis to kind of, you know, rebound and just kind of re-enter into the boxing space in the same traditional or mental capacity that he may have been in at one point in time when people thought that he would make the big fights. with Shakur Stevenson's and Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney and whatever fights, right? Competitive fights. Wanted to see him to pursue his greatness. Wanted to see him pursue his potential, right? Reach his potential and do his thing. But as these press conferences go by, as these conversations go by, it pretty much, it keeps coming back to the same reality. I think for a lot of people, that Tank is dialed. He's dialed into what he's dialed into, and what he's not dialed into is boxing right now, or even his fan base. Right? He's pretty much detached himself from all of that, and he's on his own mission, right, to go ahead and accomplish his own goals. And there's an argument there to say, obviously, that he should, he's well within his right, obviously, to do that, right? He's the one who's been putting the work in. As he stated, he's been boxing since he's been 7 years old, 20 plus years of his life, committed to this sport, and he's looking to get something out of it. At this point in his career, he's in a place to where he doesn't feel he needs to prove anything else, right? It is what it is. So we'll definitely talk about that for sure. We'll talk about that for sure, as well. Shout out to my guy, Ray M. Effin Davis in the building. Ray Davis in the building.
Hey, man. You look like 10 years younger, man.
Yeah, I want to stage it up, man. I changed up the look a little bit this morning.
Got the shade going on. It's crazy, bro. I'm telling you what. I did a little different, too.
Man, we got to spice it up. Wifey like it like this, you know what I'm saying? Wifey's not a big fan of the beer, you know what I mean? She love me though, all right? Baby girl love me, but she's not big.
Man, it's either bro or your girl. I don't want to say girl. I'm trying to think of the right word because that's
for the girls, for the ladies.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, man.
Pretty rich, they say it, right?
I got a clean cut version of me. I was in the military. I used to have to shave every day. I know what to do with it, and how to carry it. It is what it is, right?
Yeah. What's up, freaking fly in the building, my brother.
Yeah, salute to everybody who is in the building. We got a lot to talk about, obviously, today. I said this last week, Ray. Last week's show, I said, this era, Bud Crawford has inspired myself. I think he's inspiring the boxing space, but we do have a duty, and I think we are going to be a little bit more seemingly aggressive, I think, with our opinions and our personal positions on what's going on in the boxing space. We want to give you guys the news. I want to give you guys what's going on, and I want to keep boxing, where it's supposed to be. But at the same time, I try to not be as opinionated as I could be. I know some people might feel like we are opinionated, but I think Ray, you will attest that I'm always holding back, right? Pushing back at, hold on, well, it's not, that's our personal. I always say that we want to appeal to the masses and as much as we can, but that's a hype dream, right? You can't, because they're either going to hate you because you're riding the fence, or they're going to hate you because you're picking a side. We're picking a side of boxing, right? We're always going to speak about this boxing and speak about it is, right? So, but how's it going on over there, man?
Man, listen, man. That was the worst. I know. That was the worst press conference ever, bro. And it just shows you.
We're going to talk about it, though. We're going to talk about it because it was the worst, but it was the best at the same time.
It exposed a lot.
It was. And sometimes, and we're going to talk about all that. They also got a special guest coming up here in a few. I've got my guy, J.R. Bell, going to pop up here, Boxing Source. The guy who asked the question.
Yeah, he asked the perfect question.
Right, who asked the question. So he's going to give us some detailed perspective as far as the energy of the press conference, the atmosphere. We're going to talk about how the boxing space is embracing this at this point, right? Because we have a press conference. It gets real once these guys face off. It gets real once these guys step into the building and announce it. Because it's one thing to see the posters, the flyers, social media postings, but I do think it kind of goes up a couple of different notches once the actual face-off happens. And I'm seeing, there he is right there. Shout out to my guy, man. Step up in the building. My guy, J.R. Bell in the building, man. Shout out J.R. Bell. Boxing boy. In the building. Family, what is good with you, man? I know you're tired this morning. I'm so happy you found a way to tap in. You got hard work, man. Clap it up. The boxing folks, man. Underrated, but always Never
Absolutely.
underappreciated. The boxing source. What's
Listen,
good,
man, let me tell you, brother. I'm tell you what happened. Everyone was talking, right? The round one sports talk asked the question. I put my head down for about 2 minutes, and then your question came up, and I hear the voice. I'm like, hold on, I know that voice. I look out, I'm like, yo, that's the boxing. So look at him up there getting a mean ass question up there, and then there was crickets. I'm like, what? Man, didn't you just tell everybody you was the face of boxing like a year and a half ago? Did you not just tell everybody that? And you said, I don't even want to. You got this. Welcome to the.
First of all, how you doing this morning? Did you get a chance? You get some coffee? You get some rest? You get anything going? Or are we just moving on? Or how do you say back in there? Are you operating on please and thank you right now?
basically operating on that, man. You know what I'm saying? Them overnight trips, man. They ain't the business, bro. I'll just
as we get older too, right? It's not as sweet as you see. As we get older, our body's like, brother, I'm trying to tell you, I need you to get it together. Stop playing with me. I got only a couple more of these left in me before I'm gonna start.
Right, exactly. I got one, maybe two. But
I got like one or two more. I'm trying to keep it 100 with you now. I'm gonna need you to make some readjustments, some recalibration. We need to revisit the drawing board and figure out what we doing and how we doing this, because this right here,
this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and
we appreciate you being out there, bro. We definitely appreciate you being out there, because for all argumentative purposes, you're the only person I think out of all the questions that got asked up there that kind of like had somewhat of like a serious approach to it, just to kind of like, let's just get past the silliness of it all. Let's speak to the elephant in the room. We're coming off of this event last week. We've seen a lot of people, I'm not going to say everybody clearly, but a lot of people are saying that we have a crowned new face of boxing, that we have a crowned new, right, a pound for pound, the best fighter in the world, Terrence Crawford, who did something amazing for the sport. And, here we are going into this event. So I'm interested in the fighters, you guys' perspective on exactly what exactly is checking the boxes for you guys to say that you're the face of boxing coming off of this weekend. And as my co-host said, crickets, man. Crickets.
You know what was even great about that too? One more thing I want to add to that is the fact that when you're going viral because of your question, right? But the fact that you drew the line in the sand, as Clay said, you drew the line in the sand on everything else that was distracted from Shakur to this. You publicly put it on the two guys that are supposedly building the sport back up and the mainstream casual fan base, and you asked them, and both of them sat there like I said, you can hear a pin drop in that room at that time. Crazy work.
So going into it, JR. So I spoke to you a little bit early this morning, but if you don't mind, maybe revisiting it, I guess. But so going to this press conference, you're making your way to this press conference. You're just covering the press conference at this point? Or are you moving with a little bit of purpose heading into this press conference? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is it like, you know what I'm gonna go do when I get there? Like, how's that working out for you?
I mean, the thing about it is like you go to the press conference, trying to see like what the vibe is going to be for the fight in general. Now, I mean, remember, the original scheduled press conference was supposed to be last Wednesday because the fight in general was supposed to be planned to take place in Atlanta, State Farm Arena in Atlanta. So it was supposed to be last Wednesday in New York, and then it was supposed to be that following day in Atlanta. But when they moved it, as far as like the venue and everything, then they said, okay, we're going to push this back, at least for the New York joint, for this Monday, and then, going to Miami instead of, Atlanta, since they scrapped Atlanta altogether. So those were a couple of things that I kind of like had in mind as far as like, okay, why did they move it from Atlanta in the first place? And then two, as we were mentioning, you got, Jake Paul that's been able to do what he's done over the past 5 years, registering to be a professional boxer and everything like that. Everything's registered. It's cleared through the state athletic commissions wherever he fights. So it really doesn't matter who the opponent is. As long as it's sanctioned by that state athletic commission, it's put in as an official fight. And then on the other side, you got Gervonta Tank Davis, who, after his fight against Yuriorkis Gamboa in Atlanta, of all things, right? They said, okay, we're going to make this step to make this guy be a pay-per-view guy. So after that fight in 2019 in Atlanta, they said, okay, with this Leo Santa Cruz fight in 2020, that's going to be the first fight that they're going to have on pay-per-view and showcase Tank Davis as a pay-per-view guy. So these two fighters have basically kind of impacted the sport inside and outside of the ring here over the past 5 years. So if you're going to talk about, oh, the face of boxing, and they kind of, bring that up, or it's brought up in a conversation or in a question after Tank's fights, then okay. Didn't he say something to the level of abso-fucking-lutely when Jim Gray asked that question? So, okay, now you got these two guys here, two of the more popular, I guess, fighters in the sport. So I'm like, okay, y'all make y'all case. And I'm like, it gets quiet. I'm like, say something. Like, what's going on? Say something. You feel me? But, in a sense, though, like overall, I feel like the press conference itself was kind of subdued in a sense. It didn't feel like for example, last year when you had Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson at the Apollo Theater, like that one had energy. It had like people getting involved, whether it's the media, the crowd, all that type of stuff. It seemed like that. Here, it didn't really kind of like give that type of vibe.
Yeah. So to now, just in that moment, you asked that question, and I noticed what you did was you asked a question, then you stepped away from the mic, right? Like, so clearly to me, that means like that's the only question I have. I'm not going to.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm not going to press you. I'm not going to make this a big stink in the room. But I think this question right here, I think it felt like you culminated everybody's speculation. A lot of people could get their answers based on this question. I'm going to give you one question I think is going to address the elephant in the room. There is an elephant in the room, and the elephant is that this fight isn't supposed to be happening. There are other fights that are supposed to be happening. They're not happening. We just watched what we just watched a week ago. I need some perspective for the fan base from your mouth now, without anybody giving their personal opinions. What's checking the boxes for the face of boxing as far as you're concerned? Where do you stand on this topic? It's silence. You step away, and I see you had like this. You kind of like this, right? This is how you were standing there, and you kind of like. So, at what point does a quiet kind of settle in, and you start? Are you wondering if they're going to even answer the question at this point, or are they thinking about the answers? Like, what is going through your mind?
Like, y'all got to go back to it because, like. For like the overall questions that were being asked in general, right? Like one in a sense in reference to like the questions addressed to Tank Davis, those have basically been asked many times before, a million times over, regardless of the press conference or whatever it is. So like the stuff about the Shakur Stevensons and the Teofimo Lopez is like I've heard that in his press conferences with Lamont Roach Jr. One thing I said was if there was anything, they could have pressed the thing about Lamont Roach Jr., but the fights with Shakur and like Teo, I ain't really, think about that. But also the person that was up there before me was like, oh my God, I love you, Jake Paul, and you do this and that, and I love you too, Tank Davis. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? What are you talking about, bro? So I was like, man, I'm gonna just go ahead and ask this question. And they said like it was the last question from the media. So I was like, one question and done, and that's it. So once I asked the question, I'm like, okay, that's it. I did what I had to do, and that's it. But they ain't gonna say something. I was like, damn, y'all quiet as shit, man. Say something.
You about to go back to the mic and kind of like, hey,
repeat that shit. Yeah. I was like, yo, like, come on, like, exactly. I mean, if you're gonna pose this as a fight with two guys that have impacted the sport as far as like popularity and getting people to either attend fights or watch fights, then okay, this is supposed to be those two guys that stand out, not a Canelo Alvarez, not Terrence Crawford, who basically just got in the scene as far as like popularity is concerned. So it's supposed to be y'all two. After Canelo, it's y'all two. So if y'all going up against each other, if y'all saying, Jake Paul has called you out and all that type of stuff, he called you out for, a couple reasons. One, because you had that popularity being one of those guys in the sport. And two, because it's like, hey, I'm here to fight the biggest guys out there in the sport. I mean, think about it. It's going to be about a full calendar year since he fought the baddest man on the planet, probably the most recognized figure in boxing from the past 50 years since Muhammad Ali. So now it's like, okay, who's the next one? I can't get Canelo. Okay, I'll get the next one over. Tank.
Right. That's what it looks like, at least, right? That's what they're trying to do. Now, they did answer, right? They finally did answer. They finally get it together and they answer the question. I guess the what would be sold to the boxing space is that maybe they didn't hear the question, right? Maybe they didn't hear it. So the moderator up there kind of like, hey, I think he's waiting on you guys to answer this question. So Tank's like, well, I don't know what was the question. So did you go back and ask the question again?
Yes,
at that point?
Yes,
okay.
I did. I did. Brian Custer, kind of like repeated it and stuff like that. And, Tank was like, you had the Neil deGrasse Tyson, man.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, so
you sound serious as shit when you asked him the second time. I ain't gonna lie. Even with Brian Custer trying to smooth it out while you were talking, you sound serious. Like you was like, listen, man, I already asked this question once. Now I'm asking you again, and you better answer it.
Like, cause it's like it's a straightforward question, but hey, Tank's like, hey man, I'm not the face of boxing, fam. Just a person that boxes. You know what I mean?
That was
and Jake Paul was like, hey man, numbers. But you kind of get the thing there with Tank, and that he's pretty much like on his way out the game.
Yeah.
We bring up the whole thing as far as like him being fighting since like 7 years old and that type of thing. I've had conversations with a number of people within his camp, and from what they're saying, it's like, yo, like after all this, like it's a wrap. So as far as like a fight with the Shakur Stevensons and all that, don't really count on anything like that from happening or anything. Like once he gets his bag, then we'll see what's next, and whatever's next is if it ain't Lamar Rhodes Jr., then hey,
what are we doing? What are we doing? Right?
I mean, but it might, if it ain't Lamar Rhodes Jr., then probably won't be anybody. Like if he gets this bag and says, okay, I'm cool with this, fighting Jake Paul, then he could walk away from the sport.
Right. Yeah. Now, a question, Clay always asks this question, and I should ask you, in your opinion, do you believe he should relinquish the belt, or they should just put him in a champion in recess? First of all, Lamont Roach just moved to 140. So if he's going to fight Lamont Roach, he's probably going to have to move up to fight him at that point. I doubt Lamont's going to come back to 135 to fight Tank Davis, unless the money's right. Another thing is he's fighting Jake Paul, which was supposed to be a rematch, and there's already contracts and everything spread out and signed, and he decided to move a different direction. With that being said, do you think that fight one is still on the table? And if it is it at 140? And should Tank literally give up the belt, or should the sanctioning body put him as a champion in recess?
Good segue on that with the Lamont Roach thing, because recently I've seen a clip there of Lamont Roach talking about the details of the contract.
Finally, right on the Danza project.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
And he said that basically that was a thing where if it's something where Lamar Roach wins or it's a draw, then they go back. You know what I'm saying? And then they said, oh, it's supposed to be for June, and then it got pushed back from that and everything. But given my previous conversations with his father, Lamont Roach Sr., like he basically stated that same thing, because it's like, okay, you got June coming up, they ain't got nothing scheduled. You got July, which was pretty much booked already because they were putting everything towards, Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios. Mm-hmm. So if there was going to be anything, it would have been August. But if you're going to have a pay-per-view for Pacquiao versus Barrios, you think that they're going to have those resources also for like a Tank versus Roach rematch? Right. So they already had their antennas up, like it wasn't necessarily going to happen, at least then. But then when they, basically made the move to fight Jake Paul, it's like, well, see, now stepped out and I guess breached the contract. So they still have that whole thing that they got to get through on that front. Now, in reference to the WBA, Hey, that's up to the WBA president Gilberto. Like, Tank Davis is had that WBA belt for some term, and can anyone really name a mandatory defense that he's had?
Probably the closest would have been
Rolly.
Rolly.
Rolly was the only one.
Yeah,
Maybe if that.
Right.
So as far as like the WBA, like I've talked with the number of these organizations, but sometimes money talks. It's professional boxing at the end of the day, and as long as you have a top guy that's getting top money, and you're able to get that percentage off of them for defending that title, then you're gonna give them more leniency. It's no different than the WBC with Canelo Alvarez.
Right.
So,
yeah, that very, very interesting, and I appreciate that question, Ray, because that was a good question as far as what JR's personal opinion was on how they should maybe deal with this situation, being that clearly this belt's not going to get defended anytime soon, and there's a lot going on right now in the lightweight division. It would be nice to kind of get some clarity as to what that part of the conversation is going to look like. Floyd Schofield Jr. now looking like he's about to fight Jojo Diaz, and he seems to have his eye on that WBA title, whether it's to fight Tank Davis or fight for a vacant belt, and walked away from the Moratala situation. I don't know. That's another conversation as well. Maybe Moratala walked away from it. I don't know. But I thought the press conference was real revealing, and it was a necessary, right? Because the reason I think it was a necessary, and you let me know what you guys think about it. It was a necessary because a lot of questions, a lot of speculation around Tank Davis in his career. And I think in this particular boxing space that we occupy, right, the urban black, however you want to look at it, in this particular boxing space, it's caused quite a divide, right, amongst fans in a what some people might say a toxic way. And the reality is that Tank is not a very good communicator. He doesn't really communicate and give you any true perspective to kind of understand what he plans on doing, how he plans on moving with his career. And he might put a tweet out here and tweet out there, and then it leads a lot of people to speculate into what he's thinking, what he's doing. Maybe you'll hear some inside information from people who are connected to his camp, and still doesn't give you any real actual direction, like tangible direction as to what where he's going with his career. So I thought this press conference was an opportunity to get some clarity there. And that's why I appreciate you being there, because it did look like the opportunity was going to kind of slip away a little bit, right? Because people were just kind of beating around the bush. It's like, you guys do know that we don't get an opportunity to speak to this guy for real, right? Like, this guy does not come outside the way he is right now and make himself available for any real journalist, media presence to actually, press him on some questions that need to be answered. And in one question, you were able to get a lot of answers out of it, right? Let me ask you, though, as a journalist, and combining that with the information that you've gotten on the ground level of as far as people who may be connected with the camp or the promotional platforms, at this point, walking away from this press conference, seeing the reaction of the boxing space in that particular moment, and also catching the energy from what Gervonta was communicating, where are you as far as Gervonta Tank Davis in boxing right now as a fan?
As a fan, if you view of it as a fan, of course you would want more out of Gervonta Tank Davis, given that if you're going to, or at least with me, right, and a few people have placed Gervonta Davis in the pound for pound rankings, right? Like at one point, I had him up there within the top 4 or the top 6, right? But now, given what happened on March 1st, and given that he's going to be, fighting Jake Paul here in November, then you can't help but not to, put him in, either outside the top 10 or at 10, because that he's not going to have an active fight against, any type of fighter within his weight class, and then you'll compare that to the situations with other people that might be around that top 10. They're going to have active fights with guys that, either they're going to be active within their weight class, or it's going to be something that's going to show, okay, pound for pound. Like you talked about Canelo Alvarez versus Bud Crawford, right? Those guys are both in the pound for pound rankings. And so the winner would kind of like be at the top or around the top of the pound for pound rankings. Here with Tank Davis, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get anything close to that, And with that being said, as a fan, you'll want more from Tank Davis, especially if they say, okay, he's a multi-division world champion and all those other accolades, right? So you're like, okay, who is out there that he could potentially face that could show, okay, this is him. Now, this is coming from somebody that has, followed or been around Tank Davis around this camp, for some time now. And there's one thing that stands out from his camp, and that comes from his head trainer there, Coach Calvin Ford. And he said sometime back, he said, you haven't seen the best of Tank. Okay. Yep. If that is the case, then what fight would be out there that would kind of show who the best of Tank is? Like, does anybody have that answer? I'm not sure. It might have been against Lamont Roach Jr. on March 1st in the Barclays Center. But why? Because both of those guys are familiar with each other. They fought in the amateurs. They kind of sparred off and on as pros. So they know, what makes each one of them tick. So March 1st was a very good fight skill-wise from both of those guys. But outside of that, are we going to see Tank Davis in the ring against someone that, people feel is his contemporary? And we haven't necessarily seen that.
Good point. And Clay, to answer your question as well, the first part you start off with was the tank. The tank looked different, right? How does it feel? So I would say that he was different. At a point when he thought he was getting that Amazon bag, that $246 million deal for 6 fights, he seemed to be very flourished and happy. He broke away from Floyd. He had all these things. He looked like he had even Leonard Elby next to him. He had all these guys next to him, smiling and dancing with him. Right? He gets to that point, and you've seen the heartbreak when you seen that Canelo had to demand a bag, and it looked like that put a hurting on Tank's career. It looked like it put a hurting on how they were going to promote everyone else, because Canelo took all that money from PBC, whatever he dried up the well. The MGM had to kick in some cash. He had to get some money from a TV promotion to kind of get that fight going on. And once he got his fight, they were expecting some money to come in to make the fight for Gervonta, which Intel did not. So then they put on a Benavidez card that kind of built some money up a little bit more. And then you had the Tank fight with Roach. When you got that fight with Roach, you could see that Tank just didn't look happy. He didn't look like he was into boxing anymore at that point. When you actually had a point where he looked like he was going to continue boxing, he was going to go after all these champions, and he said a lot. He had an interview where he said he got 6 people on his list during the Frank Martin time. And the thing is, you've seen it change. Obviously, his fans know that he fights for money. There's no secret there, right? We all know he fights for money. But when he put his legacy, now I'm going to reverse the question. He put his legacy out there, right? Or based on all this, are we going to always know him as a guy who fought for money? Are we going to ever put him in there saying, hey, this guy was a multi-division champion. This guy did hold on to the belt and retain his titles with maybe 0 title defenses, because they always kick Terrence Crawford in for not defending his undisputed. Did he defend his titles against his mandatories on a continuous basis? Absolutely not. So now we have to put that in a question of, how does this carry on his legacy, and where does that put him in history? Because that's going to solidify who he is. And I think he knows that's hurting him. And if he doesn't take a fight, like Boxers Rich just said, then guess what? Then it's going to look bad for him. He's going to just ride away in the sunset as the guy that never was. And it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that it's a combination of a lot of things when it comes to Gervonta Tank Davis, because his story is interesting. It's interesting. You know what I mean? Just so much talent, so much promise, so much a lot of people put a lot of personal vested interest in this guy's success and where he was going to go with his career. And his career is not over. I don't want to speak about it on past tense until it's actually over. It's not over. Gervonta Tank Davis can wake up at any morning now, whether it's tomorrow morning, this morning, at the end of the month, maybe the night after the Jake Paul fight. He can wake up and decide to have an epiphany about how he looks at his career and what he's willing to do as far as sacrifice or concede to in order to make some of these legacy fights come to fruition. But in all reality, right now at this moment, it does seem like he's ready to walk away from this sport, and he wants to make sure he walks away with something that's going to be generational wealth wise, very, very effective for what he came in the game for. A lot of that, when he speaks on that, I can kind of I empathize with his position to a degree. As somebody who may be coming towards the end of his career, he wants to make sure he gets a nice little nest egg. And I also agree with you. We talked about it multiple times on here as far as what changed between that Frank Martin fight and today, right? A lot has changed, right? Including the Lamont Roach whole entire situation with just his whole entire energy. When you see him take that knee in that fight and put his head out, when it goes to a draw, it's almost like, of course it would, right? Look how everything's been culminating up to this point, the way he's been talking about boxing, talking about getting these fights, talking about how he feels about boxing. Something is clearly wrong. Right now, we're looking at an announcement that was made. And I don't know if this is speculation at this point, or is this something that we can hold on to as real, but rumors circulating at a minimum that Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez still actively in a negotiation to try to make something happen in 2026. But an interesting aspect that came out on the back end of that is that the PBC and Saudi Arabia, Turkey Al-Sheikh seem to be coming together, where Turkey's going to be financing, for all intent and purposes, this fight between Shakur and Teofimo Lopez. That's what the rumor is. They might be bringing it to Brooklyn, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to allow basically the PBC to go ahead and be a platform for this fight to be made, which is interesting on two spaces. Number one, Shakur's a free agent. Teofimo Lopez, we don't know what his relationship is with Top Rank right now, but I don't think they're either one of these fighters are PBC fighters in any capacity. So here goes the PBC going to take the helm at promoting and pushing this fight on their platform. Tank Davis, we just saw Shakur Stevenson and Steven Espinosa have like this kumbaya moment, just kind of ironing out the wrinkles and addressing the elephant in the room between them as far as this Gervonta Tank Davis negotiation and how it went. And Shakur, of course, pressing Steven Espinosa with the ultimate question, which is, am I in the plans? I want to make this fight happen. I'm a free agent. Am I in the plans? And Steven Espinosa gives his answer, however you want to look at it. He gives this answer that you could walk away feeling like he is in the plans, but you can also walk away feeling like Steven Espinosa was blowing a lot of hot smoke. And to see Tank moving the way he is with this Jake Paul fight, which, by the way, from my understanding, I did see Tom Brown up there with Tank Davis, but I don't know the PBC's actual role or what their presence looks like in this fight. There's a lot of like these variables that we don't have the answers to, and it makes me wonder what's really going on right now beyond Tank. Is Tank moving out the way? Is Shakur moving in his place? Is Teofimo, is the PBC approaching boxing differently now? Do they have a whole different angle that they're going to be pushing? Does this angle include Tank Davis? Does this work that Turkey Al-Sheikh is doing with the PBC include Tank Davis? I mean, is there any perspective that you guys can offer as far as seeing all those things that I just mentioned that are happening at the same time? Is Tank Davis part of this conversation anymore when it comes to the PBC and what they plan on doing? Or are they moving past this man now and going into the next chapter or next era of boxing as far as the PBC is concerned?
And if you don't mind real quick, because I do want to ask JR a question too. But no, Clay, because I'm going to say Gervonta kept saying, oh, I can't reveal this multiple times. I just can't say anything. So it tells me that he wanted to speak on the PBC a lot and what was going on there. And he kept reluctant to say things, one, due to that contract with Lamont Roach and maybe something else that's going along with Al Heyman. He reported earlier, maybe stepping out at the end of the year and riding off to the sunset. PBC may go a different direction. And it actually speaks to that because if I'm not mistaken, JR, this is the question I wanted to add to this point. I believe when they introduced Tom Brown, they introduced him as the president of GTD. And I was like, did I hear that right? And I said, did they say did they say Tom Brown Promotions, or did they say
probably was TGB Promotion?
That's why I was like, I couldn't understand what happened. It happened so fast. I had to double check. I'm like, hold on, did I hear this right? So I'm glad you were there, and that's why I wanted to ask, because I'm like, is the PBC like really going down, and all these guys just left, and he now signed with Tank? I didn't know if I heard it right or not, but I'm glad you clarified that in such a way. But at the same time, I thought it was kind of weird that you're seeing all these pendulums swinging and you're just starting to see Gervonta is moving closer and closer, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure like what they were going to make of this. I mean, because when I see the flyers, it's more about like, GTD Promotions, which means it's just, Tank Davis and, maybe Ravon Littletron, that's, also affiliated with GTD Promotions. But this could be like a one-off, when it comes to the whole thing with TGB, Tom Brown and everything like that, because they use like, like a Tom Brown as like the person that's out there for a lot of the events that are under presentation by Premier Boxing Champions or, through Heyman Boxing, right? So the thing about it is like, okay, when it comes to Tank Davis and the deal that y'all mentioned there earlier in reference to him and Amazon Prime, what does that mean? So that's the thing that people are kind of like trying to speculate what's going on with all that, because once they had that deal, it was supposed to be 6 fights, right? And up to this point, we've only had 2, Frank Martin and Lamont Roach, So, and then other than that, now you have this, and it's on Netflix. So, as I was mentioning earlier, is this a one-off, and they're gonna, continue that deal with Amazon Prime, or what's gonna be the direction here for Tank Davis? Because if you have Amazon Prime putting that investment towards Tank Davis, and I said even with the deal being initially made, that it's similar to like how Showtime had to deal with Floyd Mayweather Jr. But usually with that one, and Steven Espinoza was involved in that too, as y'all know, that one had like an ultimate goal. Like you had to make sure that Manny Pacquiao was, part of that deal. So they were able to secure that, but had, everything else as a bonus. The Canelo fight as a bonus. The 2 fights with Maidana and how successful that was as a bonus. So here with Tank Davis, that's the thing that they were trying to do there with Amazon Prime, but is it necessarily getting the returns that they're looking for? That's the thing that people want to know.
Yeah. Without a doubt, and shout out to my guy Reyes Boxing in the building. Salute, Reyes. How you doing, family?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I saw we got the special guest JR. That's pretty awesome. Boxing Source. I was going to ask you, JR, were you at the Canelo Crawford fight also in Vegas?
Yeah, I got a ticket on there, and I was out there for the thing for the press conference. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. My question was, it's more because in the show, I know that we always we do our best to try to give a generalistic idea to everyone, because I one of the strong feelings that we have is it's easy to be negative, right? Everybody could be negative. That's so easy, right? Mm-hmm. But what most people don't understand, and I'm sure you understand this, JR, is the regular mainstream public are going to take the narrative that they're being told. Oftentimes, the problem is the YouTubers or who is giving this source to them is acting like the mainstream public is already a foodie, gourmet type of a taster. So then they're giving them like these specific bad things about boxing, rather than just giving it a flat out, hey man, do you like burgers? Well, then this is the burger. And I feel like, and my question to you is, you went to an event in where it is clearly designed for the mass public who knows who Jake Paul is, the fewer public, and I say that respectfully, but the very much fewer public that know Tank Davis, because no matter what you want to say, man, Jake Paul is a lot more known to a bigger demographic than Tank Davis. Mm-hmm. So this is a combined effort of 2 things coming together, and then Netflix saying, hey, America, or hey, global world, mostly America, do you guys like burgers? Well, here's a burger that we're giving you, right? And that's kind of like another introduction. So you were at Canelo Crawford like I was. That was kind of like an open door to boxing, where this is the best it can get. And if you guys support this, like the way you support a Super Bowl, 70,000 people, this is what the events are like, right? Mm-hmm. This one to me feels like, again, for the general public, they don't know any better, right? Mm-hmm. When you were there and you saw everyone else on the crowd, I don't even know how many media people, and I'm talking to real media people, right? I'm not talking, like you're a real media person because you asked a real media question, right? But most people, are kind of glazing on everyone else, and I get it, man. I'm not trying to. There's the guy that was kind of glazing. You saw it, JR. Okay, but hey, man, hey, look, you know what? Maybe it's internationally. He was just trying to be respectful, so I'm not going to call him a glazer. I'm just saying, okay, when you're media, it is not only your job to promote JR, but it is also your job to tell the truth, right? But you want to
search for the truth at least, right?
Right. So you want to sprinkle it like, to the mainstream, like, hey, man, you're not trying to be a hater, but you'd like some stuff. So in your opinion, how many real media people were really there? And how much traction do you believe this event's going to get from actual regular media? I'm talking like regular, New York media, regular LA media, that type of media.
Yeah, the way you pretty much presented this is on point. Okay. You preface it with what was happening there with Canelo versus Crawford, right? For as far as like the overall sport of boxing in general, that is as good as it's going to get. And you have someone in there with Canelo Alvarez being one of the most popular fighters in the sport over the past 10 to 15 years. So you were going to get that crowd regardless, So if you like say at the press conference there for that, yeah, it's going to be a pro Canelo crowd because Canelo Alvarez, even from what it was, as I said, from that particular week, that was almost 12 years since Canelo's fight with Floyd Mayweather. So if you could go back to that scene of Canelo versus Mayweather and the Strip and how packed it was around that area for that time, that is the type of atmosphere that you would want to see for like those type of fights, so super fights or whatever it is. So it kind of made sense for that. Here with this thing with Tank Davis and Jake Paul, it's more like how, as I mentioned earlier with Clay and Ray here, where you had Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. When they initially, announced that, it's like, oh snap, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. So you got someone in Jake Paul, as you said, is someone that's popular outside of the boxing world. And then you got Mike Tyson, who, listen, man, I'm the baddest man on the planet. Listen. Okay, so you had that whole thing going up. And so when they had that press conference over at the Apollo Theater, you seen like how big and how much, coverage and all that type of stuff was going on for that, or the type of people that were able to ask questions for it. So it wasn't just people within boxing, it was people outside of boxing because of how, big, those two guys are, Jake and Mike Tyson. They're trying to do the same thing here, right? But you didn't kind of get that type of energy initially from this particular press conference that was yesterday. Maybe we get it today in Miami, but you just didn't get it yesterday. It was more people that were within the sport of boxing that I've seen out there. And this is not that type of thing. One, it's an exhibition match, so you can't really kind of go at it that way. So here in this instance, you got to put it as like how you had, Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. It's got to be kind of like in that same type of atmosphere. So asking like questions about like potential fights that would be in actual boxing, like the thing in reference to, like I mentioned, Shakur Stevenson or Teofimo Lopez, like that doesn't, like, you don't necessarily get much out of that because you're going to get the same answers from Tank that you did, as I mentioned the last time we had a press conference with Lamont Rocha. You're going to get the same answer. So that's why I posed the question that I did. And the only reason, and mainly the reason why I did that, was because I didn't really get that from, Brian Custer. I would have expected it from Brian Custer, actually, So that was, like I said, that particular question, I had that like in the wallet or something like that in the pocket the whole time. I was just waiting for somebody to ask it, but nobody did up to that point. So I'm like, all right, bet. I'll just ask it.
Right. Yeah. I think that I love the question, right? That you just asked, Angelo, and I think that's a question I really wanted to ask too. Was about the traction, right? Like how much? I mean, he pretty much answered it, but it's just like how much traction did this press conference really kick off? Like, did it show any traction? In other words, you have something to compare it to, and that's what this is all about, right? And as far as Netflix is concerned, it's like they've kind of got an actual reference point now, or some sort of way of approaching this litmus test to be like, all right, we're serving two extreme versions of the same dish, right? We're going one version, which is Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, legacy, undisputed, Ring Magazine, $188,000 Ring Magazine belt on the line. Max Kellerman is back. Andre Ward is commentating. Antonio, the boxing pundits of the pundits, right? The foundation to this thing brought back sort of a picture of a resurrection, the introduction of Dana White and TKO and all these different moving parts of this event and the weight behind this event being successful or not being successful. Allegiant Stadium, 70,000 plus people supposed to be in attendance, like huge scaled up new standard of what greatness looks like in boxing. And here we go on the opposite side of that whole conversation, which is the casual space, the fight that doesn't make sense. 60 plus pound difference between these guys. One guy's 5'5", the other guy's 6'2". One guy's a YouTuber who's been boxing for about 5-6 years. The other guy's been boxing since he's been 7 years old. The other guy has all these fights that people want to see him be in. Two very extreme different sides to the same damn coin. What did this do as far as a kickoff press conference in comparison to what that Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez one did? And are we expecting this to be looked at the same way? Like, is this good? Does the fan base of this kind of gimmicky fight going to show Netflix that this deserves an investment, or is Netflix going to walk away from this like, yeah, we don't know if we necessarily want to go in this direction again? You know what I'm saying?
Funny that you said 77,000, because I'm telling you, they probably had about 100,000 copies of this thing here over the fight week, because there was like one for every single seat in that stadium. Exactly, you know. So he got one too, man. But yeah.
Oh, I got more than one, brother. I got more.
I know.
Mail mine over here, please.
Wait, let him build on that real quick.
Let him go.
Go ahead, Boxing. I know. You were done.
All right. So when you talk about that thing there with Netflix and everything like that, because I mean, what is it? We've gone through. It's going to be about a year or so that they've had events on Netflix, boxing events on Netflix, right? So you had the thing there with Jake versus Mike Tyson. You had the whole thing there with Taylor versus Serrano 3. Then you have this thing here with with Canelo versus Crawford, and now you're gonna have Jake Paul versus Tank Davis. So here it's looking like Netflix is trying to get in the direction of supporting boxing, whether it's gonna be exhibition or actual fight. So here, given that we've had the numbers for Canelo versus Crawford around 41 million or so. That were able to view it there live. So they're like saying, okay, we're getting, good enough interest to put up these particular events. But, Netflix has done this for, other sports there, whether it's like, UFC or, the World Wrestling Entertainment. So here, like I said, from that last weekend, it's TKO. So you got a TKO type of event there with Canelo versus Crawford. But now you're in the realm of, okay, now let's see what we could do with El Gallo, or whatever he wants to call himself this week, Jake Paul and Devontae Tank Davis. It kind of like gives me the vibe of like how Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia was presented, because of the popularity of Ryan Garcia outside of the boxing realm. So it seems like they're trying to do the same thing here with Jake Paul. But like I said, I have to see like what how people outside of the boxing world are going to receive this, because like within it they ain't really feeling this fight all too much at all.
Yeah, I agree. college football will be my primary source on Saturday that weekend. I will promise you that. I'm not telling you I won't watch the fight. I probably will tap in because it does have some real fights on the card.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is it's going to be on a Friday night, so that's plus on.
Oh, they're definitely trying to get. Yeah, how many people going to stay home to watch that? That's another thing. That's a Friday night.
People are going to watch it. People are going to watch it.
I'm not saying. I know what I'm saying is casual wise, Clay. Because remember, Jake Paul, he brings in a casual fan base. So how many casuals are going to stay home on a Friday night to literally watch that fight? That viewership might not be what we expect it to be because of the fact that the demographic of Jake Paul is the youth. It is the YouTube following. It is the people that like the extreme. And if they can go out and go on a date with some girl in high school or some girl in college and go to some party at college, wherever they can do, to go do something to entertain themselves, I doubt they're going to put the fight on unless they're sitting at a Friday. Well, I don't got any TJI Fridays anymore, but one of those restaurants and sit down and watch it on the TV at Buffalo Wild Wings or something like that.
Word.
I don't see. You know what I mean? It's the demographic of that alone is going to be changed. Now, you may have some boxer fans there. I'm going to watch it. But how many? You know what I mean? Some people are really just so disgusted with the fight, they really don't care. Some people just want to see it to see Tank get knocked out. I mean, there's a hate there. He did have a good point. And some people want to see how Tank handles Jake Paul. Some people, you know what I mean? Because they want to see him get knocked out or stopped or lose. So it definitely has some pros and cons to the fight. But what I wanted to touch on is when Clay was talking about this is that, you're talking about how this fight presented itself to the people. How does this sustain itself compared to the Terrence Crawford fight? Well, let's put this in a big cortex of understanding of saying that when they announced this fight, they didn't even have everything in place. They literally announced it to slow down the momentum of the Terrence Crawford and Canelo fight because there was so much spew and heat coming out for that tail end when they were spinning them tires on that fight that they announced it so quick. They didn't get approved for the Atlantic. I was gonna say the Georgia Dome, which is no longer existing. State Farm Arena. They didn't get approved for a lot of things, and then on the tail end of that, they moved the fight before they even got the paperwork served to them. No, you're not doing this fight. They moved it to Miami already, so they already knew that and ahead of time. And there was a good source that said that. I will shout him out. No disrespect to the panel, but I don't want to do that right now. But I do acknowledge that he gave us that information. But the fact is, all that being said, yes, it built the fight up to a little bit, but they tried to take the steam off of that other fight to try to build their momentum, and it didn't work. And I think they catfished themselves in a way. And now the fans that just watched this crazy press conference just look like it's just flattened the tires even more. You had 2 flat tires, now you got 2 more. So really, what are they doing? Are they going to be able to sustain? And Netflix going to be able to sell this fight on a Friday night? That's going to be my question to everyone at the end of the day, to counter yours, Clay.
Yeah. I also have I'll follow that up and also say that I think people are going to watch it, right? I do believe people are going to watch the fight. I'm definitely going to.
I agree with Clay on this one. I agree on Clay.
I think you'll get 100,000 views.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think it'll get more views than the women's. Remember when they did the all women's card on a Friday night? They got the 6.1. It's gonna get that type of numbers, and you see what I'm saying. Do you understand though, JR? And I want to ask you this too. So Ray is obviously he's speaking to the idea of the people who are already going to all of these restaurants, the foodies of boxing, right? The ones who are going to be really particular with how clean is the fork, man? How well did they set the table? But like I said, this event is McDonald's or a burger joint. It's kind of like we're opening up a new burger joint. Do you like burgers? Would you like to have this one, right? So I agree more with what Clay is saying, that people are just going to watch it because, number one, unlike Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather, this is free. So who cares? It's free anyways, right?
Right.
I think their actual demographic that might maybe hurt them a little is the fact that there's so much football going on right now, man. I don't know if there's a football game that's going to happen that Friday night. I don't know if there's going to be a college football game that's going to happen that Friday night. And college football, bro, and NFL football trumps everything. That's why you saw Turkey Al-Sheikh working with our guy Tom Brady, paying him X whatever millions to go play flag football in Saudi Arabia, bro. Like Turkey Al Sheikh's trying to bring our Raiders to Riyadh to be the first NFL team to play in Riyadh. So that's what I'm saying, man, is this is for the masses. And to Ray's point, I understand there's going to be a lot of people not happy with it. But to Clay's point, I also understand that a lot of people are going to watch it, because my point, JR, and I want to get your take on this, is if you're old enough like me to remember, we used to have this touring thing that happened at every arena called P.T. Barnum and Bailey Circus. And no matter what, man, it was always the same shit, right? It was always the same. But you brought your kids, you brought your, everybody already knew what the result's going to be, right? But it's like, I want to see some flying trapeze and I want to see a dancing bear. And that's kind of what this is. So, but go ahead, JR.
Yeah, Jake Paul did bring in a couple clowns to this press conference yesterday. That was, yeah. But
it was telling, right? Like, I don't know if he wanted it to impact the way that it did. I don't know if that was his purpose behind it, but it hit in a different way to me. If he meant for it to hit that way, great job. But to me, it made me feel like this event is a clown show. This fight between them is a clown show, is what I saw. Now, I don't know if he was aiming his focus at calling Gervonta Tank Davis a clown. I don't know if that's what the purpose was, but I think it was very there was some irony there that you would do that. And the aesthetics of this fight really hasn't the aesthetics of the fight gives off that kind of energy, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
Here's your link right here. I mean, a link right here actually to the moment right here that you had with on that stage.
Yeah.
Numbers. State your case for being the face of boxing.
I ain't the face of boxing, fam. I'm just somebody that box.
Numbers.
That's interesting, right? So that's what Jake Paul is promising Netflix, more than likely, right? They're probably
that's pretty much right? What he's posting there. To your point there, Reyes, you talk about the thing there for that particular date. As I like mentioned on my channel or other channels there, if it isn't boxing for me, it's college football. So if there was something for me to like follow outside of boxing, it would be that. So I checked the dates. They only got like 2 games out there that's being shown on network television, and they ain't really that hot right now, at least for now. Clemson versus Louisville and Minnesota versus Oregon. So that ain't really gonna be much of anything to kind of get people away from watching Jake versus Tank, so to speak. So it's more about that, and the thing there with the undercard fights, which was announced this morning, and I'm like, I kind of talked about it before they were going to have the press conference as far as like who they potentially could have on there. I talked with my guy from Brunch Boxing, brother Matt from Brunch Boxing, and he kind of like hinted at it as well. It was supposed to have Gary Antoine Russell in attendance yesterday, but he didn't make it. So I wanted to get more information about that, but they I guess finally secured that particular title defense to take place, so it'll be there on that card. And the whole thing with the Alicia Baumgartner thing for her in the WBC, it's only because they wanted to sign that off for 12 rounds, 3 minutes a round. So the WBC ain't necessarily down with that. So they're like, all right, bet. So we'll give up the belt. Less money for us to, to pay out. So
now, how do we feel about the co-main event? Do we know the people think the co-main event is Gary Antoine Russell and Andy Hiroka? He's not the co-main event.
Most valuable promotions card. That's all they, that's pretty much what it is. Most valuable promotions card. So they're gonna have to, feature their particular fighters first. You know what I mean? The thing with like I said, with Gary Antoine Russell and Andy Hiroka, like I guess they, kind of found a landing spot for that. Hopefully I'll get more information about them securing the bout for this date in this venue, because some people thought it would have been over in Japan or something. So I have to see how that worked out.
100%.
Yeah, can you also find out, JR, because we talked about that particular fight when we had I'm forgetting his name right now, Clay, but he's your friend that's connected to the Russells and everything. Remember yeah. So we had him on the show, and he was convinced about that fight. My question was to him, and maybe you could find out about this. Japan, in my opinion, would actually pay Gary Russell more, and Gary Russell, I still think, would beat Hirooka anyways, the same way Brian Norman beat Jin Sasaki. So why is he fighting on the undercard of Jake Paul? Because you already know how this works, man. Not a lot of people are going to tune into the undercards. The hardcores will. So he's not getting a more massive audience versus being a main event in Japan. He gets a whole nother global audience for that. So can you maybe, when you get a chance, ask that question? Like, hey, Tom Brown, why are you doing this, man? You can make more money in Japan.
I mean, I guess whatever Ohashi Promotions proposed, it wasn't, as much as having this, or maybe they just couldn't find a date for it. I don't know. I think if I'm not mistaken, though, I think one of the things that kind of like takes away from this, as far as like with Hirooka, right, is that the thing with Inoue, Naoya Inoue, having his next fight be in Riyadh. I think that's what it is. Because remember, usually they have those big events in Japan in pretty much like the last calendar day of, the year, right? So some people would have thought that Inoue would kind of like be involved in something like that. But now you're going to have Inoue going up against David Picasso over in Riyadh, and they're also going to have Junto on the card and Hayato Sutsumi on the card, and his brother, Reito Sutsumi on the card. So it's like you're taking away that type of super, event that they used to have in Japan and putting it in Riyadh. So that, I think that could be part of the reason why they didn't necessarily have this particular fight in Japan.
I see. Okay. Because that would have been actually perfect. If Tom Brown wanted to get Gary Russell paid, he should have put him on Night of the Samurais. Because there's not one American name on that now. It was supposed to be when we first spoke about it, and and Clay knows I'm Mr. Japan boxing over here, really outside of USA boxing, right? So I knew about this happening in the summer, that they were going to do a whole, and it has nothing. It has less to do with the boxing event more than it has to do with the partnership between Saudi and Japan. And Saudi was trying to repay Japan for their friendship and their alliance and this whole bit. So it just so happens, man, that the two biggest stars in Japan is Shohei Ohtani and Naoya Inoue, right? Because Naoya Inoue is everywhere. So then they were like, hey, we're going to do this entire event. We're going to surround it with Naoya Inoue, blah, blah, blah. So it was supposed to be Japan versus Mexico. That's why Picasso, who's the number one, but then they couldn't get two more Mexicans. So that's why they brought in Armando Resendez. Or not Resendez, I'm sorry. Armando Martinez, who, by the way, guys, has been fighting in the Middle East for a while at 135. He's actually quite good. And the other person is Jazza Dickens, who just won the WBA in Turkey, right? That's Lamont Roach's belt, we understand, until he comes back. But in the meantime, I don't mind seeing Hayato Sutsumi trying out, before 10 fights for his world title shot. That's awesome. Great.
Yeah,
done.
Yeah, that's going to be a full title there, since Lamont Roach Jr. is going to end up fighting Isaac Cruz for that WBC interim super lightweight title. So is that already settled? Do you know, JR? Is it signed? It's not 100% signed. As of what it was, the fight week for Canelo Crawford, that's the thing, that the initial report that was put out. So I had called, the source there to try to confirm, and they said like not everything was 100% confirmed yet, but it looking like that was going to be the move for December. So I have to see if I get an update on that here later on down the line.
Wow, that's awesome.
So now, what kind of like getting back a little bit to this Jake Paul Tank Davis is a little bit again, I guess, just to revisit a little bit, just to say that if it's not going to gain attraction. And Jake Paul has said that the numbers is what makes him the face of boxing. the number of eyes on him. Is there a potential that this fight right here could reverse some of that effect to a certain degree, to where there may be a quote unquote Jake Paul fatigue that may start to settle in the boxing space? Could this be the hair that broke the camel's back? The lack of this fight being competitive, no matter how anybody wants to look at it, people saw Mike Tyson and Jake Paul as a potential opportunity, being that Mike Tyson was a knockout artist in his day. They didn't know if maybe this Mike Tyson returned in rare form. Even him against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., well, he's a real fighter. He's just been not mentally where he needs to be, but he should be a better fighter than Jake Paul. He's fought longer. He's a second generation boxer from a legend in his father. Maybe he could turn up and do something with Jake Paul. But this fight right here is starting to look like more of a lot of people are embracing this as a joke. Like, they're looking at it like a circus act. Like, this is ridiculous. This doesn't make any sense. Does the boxing space, can this blow up in their face, I guess, at the end of the day? Can this turn out to go the complete opposite direction and actually hurt the brand more than help the brand? And could this be an exit of Jake Paul as we know him, being that he's made it about numbers, right? He said that he's a face of boxing because of numbers. Well, are the numbers potentially under attack here with this type of a fight?
We shall see.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the initial thing from Canelo Crawford was that, is it going to get the amount of attention that a Jake Paul would get, if Jake Paul fought like a notable fighter there. Remember, Jake Paul wanted to see if he could get that fight with Canelo Alvarez earlier this year. He was talking about that, what was that, like back in May or June or something?
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like, okay, Jake Paul is moving to, as I was mentioned earlier, the next person that could be the more popular figure in the sport of boxing, and Tank Davis. So with that being said, are they going to try to have this be something where they say, hey, look, we're getting more numbers, having this fight than what Canelo and Crawford are having? So that's going to be one of the major, storylines here for this fight coming up for November 14th.
Now, also, if Tank Davis stops Jake Paul, if this happens, right? If he stops Jake Paul, could we see a resurgence? Can Tank Davis return like he's never left? Can this be the driving momentum that he needs to actually get the biggest bag of money for a Shakur fight? Or, could this push him back into wanting to take it? Because I think if the right amount of money's on the table, obviously the Turkey situation is a sensitive topic, but for the right amount of money, I can see Tank Davis becoming enchanted with the sport, right? I could really see it. I'm be honest with you, as crazy as that sounds to some people. Do you think that could trigger and move his brand into a whole nother atmosphere, give him like a second Ryan Garcia recharge that brings the money back to the table? Maybe an Amazon renews a deal with PBC and brings a lot of money to it, or maybe something that makes sense for him, and then we can see another era of Tank Davis boxing, another chapter, another gear. Maybe we can say in Tank Davis's professional career.
And y'all go ahead and answer.
I'm going to say.
Go ahead, Ray. You go.
I'm gonna hop off real quick after this. I got to go pick up my son.
Okay, go ahead, Ray.
But you listen, to Clay, that question is a good question. To the fact that what if he knocks out Jake Paul? Now we already know they're going to be in the biggest gloves possible. They might be in those
12s. They're going to be in 12s.
Exactly. The biggest.
That's not possible. The biggest gloves possible.
I didn't say the biggest ever. I said the biggest possible. Basically, they're going to be what they use with probably heavyweights would use, right? Okay. Something that's going to be a little bit more padded because they don't want to hurt Gervonta. I don't think Gervonta has enough power to hurt Jake Paul with 12-ounce gloves on. Number one, and number two, if they let him fight with his gloves on, it might be something lucky, right? Maybe they should let him fight in the 8-ounce gloves, and that might be a little bit better. And let Jake fight in 12s. But because they're not, I think Jake's advantage is being able to hurt Tank with those gloves on. Now, by any chances of the sun shining and the moon crossing with the stars blinging, Tank knocks him out. I think Tank rides off into the sunset. I don't think he makes it a big deal. And if anything, he continues to go on this tour of community boxing, I'm going to call it, because I'm not going to call it anything else, of these expeditions. You know what I mean? Like, just to get his way, to get some money. Yes, I did say expedition. I know what I said. To get this money. As opposed
you didn't
to,
say funky expedition, right? I thought
Yeah.
you were going to say the funky
No,
expedition.
no. I'm not going to do that, bro. But yeah, but for him to do that, to stay on that side of the street and not come back to real boxing until maybe he feels comfortable, because this time he could deal with anything he has, any demons in his life. He can take his time off and deal with it. He can stay over there just doing whatever he has to do on that side of the street. Now, if he decides to come back and take it seriously, he will make an announcement. I think he takes some time off, believe it or not. I think he takes time off. He knocks out Jake Paul, he loses, they draw, whatever the case may be. We already know it's something in the script. We already know it. And if it goes off script and you see Tank Paul beat up Tank, you're going to see some angry people. Unfortunately, I might even be upset, because there's no reason why that guy shouldn't be in a ring with you. Let alone a spectacle that's going to be, right. So I wouldn't be surprised, Clay, if Tank does ride off into the sunset and just continue doing some exhibitions on his expeditions, right, at the same time, and see him roll out that way, because there's more money in it for him, and that seems to be his gain and his prize. Now, if he decides to come back, hey, that's on him. Who does he come back against? Because there's going to be a lot of questions. The guy for that 135 and wouldn't go up to 140. He wouldn't go to 147. He said 140 was too big. Drained down fighters to 135. Put catchweights on guys at 140. So, I mean, who is he really going to take seriously in the ring if he decides to come back? He's going to put on weight. So how is he going to adjust?
Yeah. Shout out to everybody who is in the building. So we got 49 people in the building right now. Take a moment, hit that like button if you haven't done it. Thank you in advance. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, take a moment to go ahead and do that as well. Shout out to CJ Rich Boxing earlier today, put in that $5 in here, supporting the channel. I appreciate it, man. Says, good morning, good afternoon, champs. Can't condone this circus act, but we got to cover it. Shout out to my brother, Adel Choice. Shoots me the salam, or we'll look salam back at you, Adel. Good to see you in the building. And shout out to Chris Legg as well earlier, who put that color in the chat as well. Yeah, it is what it is. We're gonna see what happens. Fights got announced on the undercard, though, gentlemen. We've got Gary Antoine Russell fighting Andy Hiroko. We've got Alicia Baumgartner defending 3 of her titles. One of them she had to vacate boxing, so I spoke as to why she had to do that. What do we feel about this undercard? Normally, when we see Jake Paul getting ready to putting on one of these events, and no matter what, we want to throw shots at who he's fighting, and whether or not it's a fix, not a fix, however, whatever the narrative is behind his fights. But normally we're pretty okay with the undercard. That's, we say that he brings eyes to the sport, you know what I mean? And he's giving people opportunities who didn't have opportunities before. That being said, where are we rating this undercard? Is this worth its weight in gold? Is this worth the quote unquote circus show of Tank versus Jake? Are we happy with what we're seeing on this undercard?
I just like to see Yoka Valley. I think she's a great fighter. I think she always stood up to test. One of my favorite female fighters out there. And I think she's one, especially I think that she should have been in a draw when she lost her title to the girl in De La Hoya. I forgot her name, Angela something. But I think that she's definitely a great person to have on that card. I didn't even know she was signed to MVP, but it's good that she's over there. It puts a potential fight for her to fight Fandora in the future coming up. So she's moving up in weight, and she might be right there. So this says a lot of her being on that card. That's something I'm looking forward to. Antoine Russell out on the card. I want to see him as well. As far as Baumgartner, I don't want to see any more of her fighting without the with the Derek James style. I think that looks terrible. It takes away from her craft. So, I mean, hopefully she made some adjustments, or they did in that camp where they got her boxing again. But if not, it is what it is.
Well, with the Baumgartner thing, Ray, the interesting spin, and how they're going to spin it for everybody, JR. The interesting spin again to everyone who's going to get to watch the burgers of the Jake Paul versus Tank event is that Baumgartner will be the door opener to doing 3-minute rounds for women's boxing for for the first time, we're finally going to have equal play for equal pay and blah, blah, blah. And they're going to spin that narrative and they're going to use her marketing ability to talk about that. It's going to put her name up on the map. But at the end of the day, Clay knows Bumgarner needs to fight people like Carolyn Dubois. And if Carolyn Dubois were to fight Alicia Bumgarner, sorry if you like Bumgarner, but I kind of think Dubois knock her out. What do you think, Clay?
I don't know. I think it's a good fight. Not well, Derek James style, yes.
I think the undercard is decent. I don't think it's as good as it could be. I don't know, man. I think this Gervonta Tank Davis Jake Paul fight might overshadow it as a circus act, and I think this might be the first Jake Paul fight that I think. Wow. I think this may backfire. I think.
Well, the Mike Perry fight backfired on him. Remember, he was supposed to fight. He lost, and then he was supposed to fight somebody else, and then he fought Mike Perry, and that kind of backfired on him. I think that in JR again, he can feel the room. And it's great that he was the one guy that was like, I'm gonna ask a real question up in this bitch, and actually ask a real journalistic question, because he could probably feel the room that everybody's kind of like, all right, man, they're just gonna sell us on this new burger joint. It's gonna be a great burger joint. Everybody get your fries, free shakes. That's kind of like the undercard right now, Clay. We're gonna give you fries and shakes, baby. Try this burger.
Yeah, Shelton says he texts to stop being disingenuous. He knows it's Davis and Paul is a clown show. I think it's a complete clown show. I think I've been very clear on how I feel about it.
I was supposed to see Shelton out there for Canelo versus Crawford fight week, but we didn't cross paths, man, because I think he was out there as well.
He didn't get to make it. He didn't get to make it.
Okay. He didn't make it. Yeah, man. I don't know. I think it overshadows it. I like the undercard for whatever it's worth. That's what, if I'm watching it, that's what I'll be watching it for. I'll also be watching it it's a spectacle, right? And I do think that's another point of conversation, to say that viewership doesn't mean that this is in demand. I think the spectacle of an event sometimes garners attention, but will it garner the same attention as boxing fans who watch Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez? I don't think so. And I think if it does, then I think that's a bad thing. I don't think you want to bring that fan base to come see this, because I think that fan base will be very critical of this event. You know what I'm saying? And that could blow up in your face. I think the fan base that you want to see this event is a fan base who can get into the spectacle of the event and enjoy it for that. I don't know if that fan base likes boxing enough to appreciate the undercard.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I think that fan base might look at the undercard and be like, who cares about these guys unless, something spectacular or exciting happens. Alicia Baumgartner's last fight just wasn't, it didn't deliver. It just really didn't deliver.
It didn't. Against Miranda, that was terrible, bro.
So this one right here is going to be like
a bad girl. I knew that. So if I could see that she was a bigger fighter and everything, I was like, yo, she going to have trouble with her.
Mm-hmm. The way that
pushed up back on her in the press conference in the face off, when she pushed back on her, I said, yo, she want out muscle Bumgarner. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Clay, I'm gonna step off, guys. I'll be right back.
All right.
Back.
Hey, JR. All right. Hey, JR, let me ask you this, right? So, and I know sometimes we get deep on this show because we're trying to give different perspectives to everybody. But you take a look at what's happened in boxing, which Clay and I have talked about several times on this show, on the last 24 months since Turkey Al Sheikh started the 2023 campaign, has been best versus the best globally. And it's only in this year now that it started to catch up in the United States of America, right? Because outside of the U.S., man, when we were watching it from 23 on, we were watching some of the best boxing we'd seen since the 70s, like over on that side. Then he started trying to bring it here. He brought it to LA in 24. And then finally it pinnacled here with Canelo Crawford, which, by the way, was an amazing event. I was there from 2 p.m., watched the whole thing. Great job. Kudos to everyone, right? That was amazing.
Kudos to you for being there from 2 p.m. because ain't no motherfucking way I was going to be out there that long. No.
So But now with how Turkey has saturated the marketplace globally of best versus the best, or you're not really in a real match anymore, right? And Tank Davis, who never quite got as popular as Floyd Mayweather in terms of a mainstream sense at all, is now going to try to replicate what Floyd Mayweather did in 2021 when he fought Logan Paul during a COVID year where people were just, they wanted a circus at that time, right?
Mhm.
Now, like Clay's saying, we're in a space where people don't really want a circus anymore. They
Well,
just want real, and we're seeing.
okay.
So where do you think that applies now, and how is Tank going to be looked upon, in your opinion, on the journalism side to everyone after this?
On the journalism side, I'm not really necessarily sure, but because the thing is with me, I view things from a historical perspective, right? You brought up 2023 in reference to Turkey LFC starting to think they were Riyadh season, the first fight card headlined by Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou, right? But that's coming off of a year that was basically a banner year for boxing outside of Turkey LFC being involved with it. We got, the thing there with Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. We got, Naoya Inoue versus Stephen Fulton. We got, a couple of other fights that involve like undisputed, championships at the time or at the top level of, respective divisions. So with Turkey Al-Sheikh, like having himself insert into the boxing realm and have, Saudi Arabia behind it, people are having the guys that, okay, he's going to be putting in matches that are like best versus the best. But to be honest with you, we've only had like 2 fights of that caliber, or basically 4, but it's 2 in general because it's the 2 fights that happened between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury, and the 2 fights that we've had with Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. Everything else has basically been, okay, let's, throw a couple main ingredients in. Let's, put in a couple seasonings, seasoned salt, paprika, a little bit of oregano, mix it all together, and then, cook it and then see if the people, like, the dish that we're serving. You know what I mean? So, like, if you have that example of, say, for example, what happened in Times Square in May, right? Like, Rolly Romero versus Ryan Garcia, or Teofimo Lopez versus Arnold Barbosa Jr., right? Mm-hmm. Or Ring 4 over in Queens is headlined by Edgar Berlanga versus Hamza Shiraz. Like, is that the fights that fight fans really want to see? I ain't necessarily too sure about that. So I think there's still like a little bit of work to be done on that part, but we'll see if they're gonna move towards having more of those fights that people are really looking for on that aspect. When it comes to Tank Davis and this thing here with this exhibition, I'm viewing it as it being in 2025, in that we've had exhibitions before, many times over, with people that have been either world champions, heavyweight champions, or anything outside of that. And that's happened while they've been active in their professional careers, right? You have, Muhammad Ali versus Antonio Inoki or something like that. Or, George Foreman fighting like 50 guys at one time or something like that. Or, Rocky Balboa versus Thunder Lips, as I kind of bring up. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it happens. It's just that in this era of instant news or instant posts, you're going to see a lot of people be negative towards it regardless. But that's what it is in boxing. It's happened all the time. It's happened over the course of history. So you just take it as it is what it is. It's just that with Tank Davis, as I was mentioning pretty much at the beginning of this show, when you have a lot of fight fans that expect a lot from Tank Davis and put Tank Davis in that pound for pound discussion, they want to see him in those particular bouts that say, okay, are you really that pound for pound guy? And if you're not necessarily seeing that, given the fights that he's had over the past, 2 or 3 fights, then it's like, okay, now you view Tank Davis in a different light as a boxing fan. Now, if you're somebody that's from Tank, you're like, okay, this is He's a professional boxer. As he said, I'm just a guy that boxes. That's it, you know. So you just do it for the money. If you do it for the money, cool. You'll do you. But you gotta understand that people are gonna criticize you regardless. So you gotta also take that into account.
Yeah, and it does seem like, you know, another thing I walked away from that press conference understanding is that Tank is indifferent with not only boxing but the boxing fans, right? He's very much indifferent with their position on boxing and on with him, and getting into it with even his own fans, right? Telling them to shut up and be fans and things of that nature. I think I'm waiting to see how this. I want to see the traction this gets, and I want to see the response is going to be. So I'll be interested in seeing November 14th to see how people deal with this.
Now, I just thought about this too. When you had the fight between Tank Davis and Lamont Rhodes Jr., right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that kind of stood out to me for that is how that was covered in a sense. What I mean by that is, I mean, here we are, we're months past this, right? A number of people that were involved in the media for that particular event weren't necessarily in the realm of boxing or sports in general. Right? And that was something that actually was brought up by one of the people within the camp of Lamont Rhodes Jr., because at that particular instance, they thought, okay, you got these guys, they're in a fight. This is as they would kind of say, DMV type of event, even though Baltimore ain't the DMV. All right, it ain't the DMV. But that's a whole nother story. But you have a number of these people that have covered these two fighters since the start of their careers, or, you know, pretty much the first half of their careers. And not a lot of them are, you know, kind of like involved in it. But you have people that are outside the boxing, you know, circle, or outside the boxing realm or the sports realm in general, that are involved in it, like the world stars, or let's say like a Breakfast Club type of thing, or, you know, Gillian Wallow, that type of, you know, that type of audience, right? So if you're kind of like going in that direction, then I guess I kind of see where they have it as far as like this particular fight is concerned, because they're trying to market towards people outside of the sport of boxing. But if you're within boxing and you say, hey, Tank Davis is supposed to be fighting this guy, he's, you know, people have been calling for him to fight Vasyl Lomachenko. They've been calling for him to fight Shakur Stevenson. They've been calling for him to fight Devin Haney. All of those guys are like the contemporaries. They're within his weight class, or at least one division above. And him only fighting Ryan Garcia kind of like has boxing fans viewing him in a different way. So after this, it's going to be, okay, is this particular fight going to be enough for him to say, you know what, I did what I wanted to do in the sport. As far as I'm concerned, I'm good, and could walk away from it. And then it will leave like a bad, a bad feeling for a lot of fight fans out there if he does that. But if he chooses to continue his career outside of that, then those are like the fights that they're going to be clamoring for, regardless of money or whatever it is. If it's out there and he gets it, cool. If not, then hey, right? So
yeah, 100%. We'll see, man. November 14th is about 2 months away, damn near, a little less than 2 months away. So let's see what these guys plan on doing, and what ultimately ends up coming out on the other side of this for Tank Davis, for Jake Paul, and for MVP Promotions. News coming out as well. I kind of want to segue out of this and jump into some boxing topics that are circulating in space right now as well.
Can I do that, Clay, and segue this? Because and I was saying how boxing in itself has really changed now in how it's being pushed. But does Xander Zayas news, Clay, with him and what's his name? Come on, help me out, Clay.
That's literally what I was about to segue into.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Well, hold on a second. Matter of fact,
I'm forgetting Bad Bunny, because I just watched Happy Gilmore too, right? But I mean, Xander Zayas is 21, handsome, eloquent, humble. He was crying when he met Trinidad. I mean, this is everything you want in a good, clean. He's like the Alexis Arguello at 21 right now for us, right? And at 154 pounds, my goodness, this guy's about to really blow up. Now, again, 154 has a bunch of killers, JR, but in terms of popularity, if they keep this kid whole, we might be seeing the next big 154 to 160 superstar in 160, 168 over the next few years. But yeah, no, go ahead, JR. What do you think of all of this?
Wait, hold on one second before we go into that. Shout out to Top Shop Talk with the $2. I appreciate that. Should have asked him if he's going to vacate. That'd have been a nice question to ask as well. Bubs Salute says, Clay, you looking slimmer. Nah, man, I'm working out, man. I'm staying committed, man. Hitting these milestones. Definitely lost a lot of weight. Continuing to lose weight, man. I appreciate you noticing. But it might be the beard too. That might be slimming as well. You know, the beard being gone as well. I appreciate you seeing that, man. Thank you, man. On this particular one, and I just want to read this article real quick here, and I'll read through it as fast as I can, but at the same time, I want everybody here. So it says Xander Zayas has signed a marketing deal with Rima Sports to expand his global reach and increase his recognition. Rima Sports is co-owned internationally acclaimed recording artist Bad Bunny. The company represents athletes such as baseball stars Ronald Acuna Jr. and Fernando Tatis Jr. The union calls for Rima's Sports to secure sponsorship, partnerships, and other related marketing, advertising deals for the 23-year-old Zayas, who, like Bad Bunny, is of Puerto Rican descent. The two have built a friendly relationship in recent years. And then here it says, joining this from Xander says, joining Rima Sport marks the beginning of a powerful new chapter in my career. This is more than a professional move. It's about partnering with a team that truly understands me, both as a fighter and as a person. Rima represents everything I stand for: culture, purpose, excellence, and ambition. And I'm not here just to win belts. I want to leave a lasting legacy, becoming a global ambassador for boxing, uplift my community, my island along the way. The title I won in July is just the beginning. With Rima's by my side, I'm ready to conquer the world. I think that hold on a second. What does it say? Khan told the ring also that he's working with top range secure defensive. Okay, so I mean, yeah, man, this kid has definitely got Golden Boy written all over him, right? And I'm not talking about Golden Boy necessarily like Oscar, but in a way like Oscar, right? He checks the boxes in multiple different ways. He's one of those boxers that I love his approach. He's a leader amongst men. I think he's one of the best 154-pound fighters in that space right now, and I mean that. I know he's pushing for a unification fight with what's my guy's name, man?
Abbas
Barahu, right? We saw him just recently defeat Yoenis Tellez and take that WBA interim title for him, which I believe at this point he's officially the full champion, right? Like Terrence Crawford has officially relinquished that belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of that fight, we saw Xander go in the ring and do a little, showed some respect and did a little bit of a face-off with Abaru. The elephant in the room for me, or the outside factor in this, is Jermell Charlo for me. Jermell Charlo was also announced by the WBA as a mandatory for that belt. So Jermell is still in the conversation. He's been circulating a lot of videos lately, social media, things of that nature, kind of, insinuating his return. And that is a title shot that's there for him. And is there an argument there that Baharu is maybe like the easier of the champions right now to fight against? Maybe Xander is. Somebody might want. I don't know, but do you think Jermell might take that fight and kind of get in the way of that unification happening, or do you think Xander will be able to lock that in?
I'm not sure about the whole WBA situation with Jermell, because, like, for one, I don't know when he solidly was going to return. Mm-hmm. At one point, and this was last year, the WBA had Jermell Charlo as the champion in recess, and it looked like, it was on record that he was the champion in recess. As of right now, from what I'm looking at, I don't see where they post Jermell Charlo as the WBA champion in recess. I mean, and you have this current situation that's coming up here for October 11th with Jaron Ennis having this fight that's in Philadelphia there against Wisma Lima, and that's supposed to be like one of those, final eliminators, or they're trying to pose it as such, right? So if you're going to have the winner of that fight, which a lot of people feel like it's going to be Boots there, then who's going to be able to take precedence? Is it going to be Boots, or is it going to be Jermell if Jermell goes up on that front? So that's the thing on the WBA side. The WBO side, Xander Zayas, winning the vacant WBO, as the WBO says, junior middleweight title, right? With his win over Jorge Garcia. Like initially, after that, because that was like the last, fight card under ESPN, he still said that, hey, he wants to have, a defense there in Puerto Rico. That's what it's looking like, they're trying to do, is try to have that defense in Puerto Rico, right? With the Basketball being the WBA champion, he would want to see if they could make that fight, but I don't think that they're gonna try to, make that fight take place. So with that being said, if they're still trying to have a fight in Puerto Rico, there has been someone that's been out there that has been calling to have that fight take place, and he recently had a win over in that Underdog series. That was the Thursday of Canelo versus Crawford fight week, and that's Jaleel Major Hackett. I had sent like a couple of things there as far as like the stories, or I posted a story there in reference to Jaleel Hackett's message towards Xander Zayas that he had on X. Last week or last Wednesday, I talked with his father and trainer there, Coach Bernard Hackett, and he said, like, multiple times over, they want to have that fight happen. If because they were supposed to have Giovanni Santillan as the opponent for Xander Zayas, and Xander Zayas, rejected it, even though they put Santillan in the rankings and all of that. Zayas just said no. So they're like, hey, why not us? Why not, make it happen? If you're not going to get a fight there, with Bakr Murtazaleh of the IBF champ, if you're not going to get, anything with, Sebastian Fondura's, booked there to fight Keith Thurman on October 25th, Boss Barao, like I said, I don't know if they're going to, do anything to try to have that unification be right off the bat. This is not like a situation like what it was, like Gennady Golovkin versus who did he fight after David Lemieux, right? It wouldn't be like that situation where David Lemieux won the belt and then the next fight he fights Gennady Golovkin. Like, I don't think that they're gonna put that there in like a Puerto Rico, right? So I'm thinking, okay, you want to have a homecoming fight, Puerto Rico, all that type of stuff. Jill Hackett saying, hey, he wants to step up and be that, that opponent. So that's what we got going on right now. Coach Bernard Hackett is really pushing for that fight and like nonstop with that. So I'm gonna see if I could, chop some clips from last week and post them. But he already had the thing there with Instagram story that I posted and everything like that. So we'll see what happens here with the WBO champion. In a sense, I can see if I get in contact with one of the matchmakers and see if they have any updates too. So I'll follow up with that.
Hey JR, can I say too that I talked to Clay about this when we did the Sunday post Terrence Crawford show, but that Jaleel Hackett, not only the performance, but him showing his heart in that Fontaine Blue Live Theater. I was there again for the whole thing, and it touched everybody, bro. Like, it made the whole room just fall in love with him. And I'm sure anyone who got to watch that on the YouTube or on DAZN did the same thing. I mean, it just felt like this kid is such a good kid. And in a lot of ways, you can even see in his eyes the mental toll that we're almost seeing what Gervonta was doing yesterday, where he's so mad, like he's carrying a lot of this baggage for all the bad crap that he's been getting. So he's doing the I don't care negative. And yeah, man, I hope when you interview Jaleel, definitely let him know we're sending him a lot of positive energy. I absolutely fell in love with the kid. I was like, I'm gonna rock with this kid, man. Win, lose, or draw now.
Yeah, when they said that they were going to be right back in the gym days after coming back, they weren't playing around. They had that fight on that Thursday. They flew back Friday, Saturday, then maybe Sunday. It could have been either Sunday or Monday. They were right back in the gym, so they were right back at it, right back to work. When I talked with, Jaleel before, they made that trip, it was like, you could see that it's like, okay, yeah, I had the whole thing where I fell short in Puerto Rico. I tried to get back, and the accident like really messed me up as far as like my foot and everything like that. And once that happened, like this is thing with social media, like everybody is quick to make those comments and blow those up. So he's seen and heard all of that, going into this fight or going into that fight that he had there against Elijah Vines, and then that fight happened in Elijah Vines, and like, there were some people in the crowd that were like, trying to roast Jalil Hackett. So him having that performance there, that was just something there that kind of like said, okay, I put in the work to get back into this particular instance, and now that it's happened, I'm gonna just, let all my emotions out there with all of that. So that's pretty much what happened right there.
Yeah, awesome. I'm definitely excited to see what Jalil's gonna do in the division. 154 has another, a young class of fighters coming up in that division as well that are creeping up into the into the conversation of what's going on up there. And Xander could definitely be one of those guys leading it. I mean, young champion like that, carrying himself the way he does. I think a lot's going to come over there with Xander Zayas. I'm looking forward to see what he does. I question though how long he'll sit at 154 though, because he's a growing young bull, bro. Like every time you see him, he gets bigger and bigger. And shout out to my guy Mazuma, Mark, last night on his show. We were talking about and highlighting the fact that he spoke to he plans on doing great things at 154. All he has to do is to continue to make weight. And the way he said it was just like you could tell it was a major factor in that fight he had. You know what I mean? When he became champion, that that was,
yeah.
You remember?
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting with that too, was because before that move for Xander Zayas to try to go after that WBO title, it looked like they were trying to make the move to have Xander Zayas fight Vito Mielnicki Jr.
Right.
But Vito Mielnicki Jr. ended up hitting above 154. So now it's like, yeah, these guys that are around that 22, 23. 24 age range, they're starting to grow and get to where they can't necessarily make 154 anymore. So we'll see how far this goes here for Xander Zayas in that WBO title.
Yeah. I think that unification fight would serve him well. If he's able to unify, just give him something to leverage his presence at 160, right? Give him something to leverage presence
being a unified champion, right? If again, this will go to what you both think of. Can Top Rank or whoever's funding it, Bad Bunny, outbid PBC and the Charlos from blocking this possible unification? Because if Xander does get both, shouldn't he be Ring Magazine champ at this point? Like, I
don't know, because you got Sebastian, because remember, Sebastian Fundora used to be the WBC and WBO champion.
Right.
It was just that, money talks. That's pretty much what that rematch was with Tim Tszyu. Money talks. Much more money to have that fight than the fight with Xander Zayas, right? So he went up and relinquished that WBO title. So that's how Zayas was able to get it, But like this particular unification, if it happens between Zayas and Barao, I don't know if like the Ring would kind of be involved in that and say, okay, this is the Ring Magazine champion there if they made that fight. Not when you have Sebastian Fundora have the run that he's had there at 154 pounds, at least recently. So,
right. Interesting. Because really, the reason why I posed that question, Clay, is, and again, JR is in there, doing all the journalism stuff, but who's really at 154 now? I mean, I'm talking about like legit champions, right? So Murtalazaev had the big win against Zhu, but we saw Fundora beat up Zhu also. So now you start to question, how good was Zhu really, right? You're no longer really questioning how great Fundora is. You're more like, well, maybe Zhu wasn't that good.
Yeah, maybe
right?
He's broken. Maybe he was broken by the time Murtalazaev got him.
Yeah, and then now, secondly, now you start to look at that whole thing. And again, I'm just putting it out there, JR, but you got Abbas Baru, who just beat the young Yoenis Tejas, who's supposed to be the next up-and-coming guy who had just beaten a former world champion, And no one was even talking about Abbas Baru, right? And this is what I mean about when you look at the global scale of boxing. Stop looking at what's being fed to you and actually go look for where the best burger joints are. And then you'll find that there are actually really good meals that you can get for the price of a burger without having to be fed advertising bullcrap. So this is where I start to defend Xander, right? And I know Clay's big on Xander. 21-year-old young
I'm a big
man.
fan of the young bull, man. I think he got a lot of promise.
But 21-year-old young man, youngest world champion we currently have, just did an amazing fight for the last ESPN deal for Top Rank. And right away, bro, the next fight, he wants to unify. You know, instead of doing the route of, oh, yeah, sure, I'll get Santillan, who got beat up at 147 against Brian Norman. I'll get, you know, he's like, no, man, let me jump to the prize. And this is where it starts to get hairy in the sense that I will defend Xander in saying, I'm sure if Xander is given a true opportunity to fight a Fundura, he would do it. In fact, he asked for it. In fact, he showed up to Fundura's fight and said, let's make it happen. And you saw they were kind of like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying Fundura's scared. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they're like doing this weird marinating thing. My point to it, JR, is the marination process of what used to be what they would say in boxing. You got to let it marinate, man, so you can make more money. That whole narrative is now over. Because the only thing that makes you more money is whether or not Turki Al-Sheikh believes it's best versus the best. So I can see someone like Turki Al-Sheikh going, all right, man, you know what? If you want to be a Riyadh ambassador, the Riyadh ambassador for Puerto Rico, we'll make this Abbas Baru happen. We'll put it in your country, and then you get to be a Riyadh season fighter, and you get to come with us. So now I say to you, sir, if there is an outbid, JR, and he wins Abbas Baru, and he's the unified champion, can you see him being pushed as the Ring Magazine 154-pound champion, irregardless of Virgil Ortiz, irregardless of Boots Enos, because he's the star?
I could see it, man. He did it for Boots. He gave Boots a lineal champion when he unified against Stanionis. He made him a lineal champion. He wasn't undisputed. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
nah. That particular thing with Boots Ennis and Iamana Stanionis, that is kind of like a situation there with the state of the welterweight division at the time, because you already had the undisputed champion there, Terrence Crawford, basically give up all of the belts. So at that time, you have Boots Ennis, you have Brian Norman Jr., you have Iamana Stanionis, and you have Mario Barrios. So it's basically, these are the two top guys that could fight each other at that point. So that for the ring itself was like, okay, two top guys. So you'll make that be for that Ring Magazine or lineal welterweight title, right? Mm-hmm. Now here with 154 is that, okay, you like one, both Xander Zayas and Abbas Barao would be having either it'll be their first defense of those titles, whether it's the WBO title or the WBA title. It would be the first defense of those titles, and it would be against each other. So that wouldn't necessarily work in a sense when you have someone like a Sebastian Fundora, who won at the time the WBC and WBO titles with his first fight against Tim Tszyu, then made one defense of it against Cordell Booker, right? Then had relinquished the WBO, but still was able to fight and defeat Tim Tszyu, and then it's going to have another title defense here against Keith Thurman. So he's been very active in that sense.
Right.
The other thing on the other side is Bakram Murtazaliev, who recently won the title, but only had like that one defense against Tim Tszyu and hasn't fought in. It'll be a year's time by the time he gets any type of fight, because he couldn't lock down one against Eric Lubin. You can't lock down one against Josh Kelly, it looks like. So then who's going to be the next in line to face Bakram Murtazaliev? Who knows? But if they try to put together Xander Zayas versus Abbas Barao, whether it would be like December or January or whatever it is, it could be a unification, but I wouldn't necessarily say the winner is the clear-cut number one fighter at 154 pounds at the time.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I do. No, I do agree with you on that. And that when you get that, I agree. Because I do believe that Sebastian Fundora is a legitimate, he's in the argument as the best 154 pounder in the space. And he's, like you said, the activity's been there. He's been defending his title. We all know it's a technicality behind the Xander Zayas WBO title, being that Sebastian vacated that title to make the money with Tim Tszyu. Xander didn't beat a champion to get that belt. Neither did Abaru. I mean, he defeated Joanna Celeste,
interim champion in Tayas,
but he didn't fight Terrence, right? So
as they say, Abbas Barao is a email champion, I guess.
Yeah, that's what he would be. I mean, I would say, yeah, man, he is. He was upgraded on the back end of. Yeah, you're right, man. That Ring Magazine title. Yeah, we can't float that thing around so easily with the politics. But you know, when Turkey gets involved in it, I can see Turkey working a lot closer with Xander Zayas, especially through that company. Yes. Remus now, rocks with Saudi. They'll do it.
Now the thing about like that particular fight, it wouldn't be that much for Turkey to like kind of make that fight because it wouldn't be that much money involved into it. Right. To me, it would kind of like be similar to what do we have?
No, I don't mean get involved with that fight. I mean get involved with Xander on the back end of that
fight. Xander, as far as like being like a ring ambassador potentially, but I mean, you got like a few ring ambassadors here and there. I mean, isn't Keshawn Davis supposed to be a ring ambassador? And
right?
Oh, he still is. I think he still is.
But he says he's retired, so I don't.
Well, for a year,
you know damn well Keshawn ain't retired, man. Keshawn ain't going no damn where, bro. Matter of fact, I know that you speak to Keshawn from time to time. You tell him to get his head out of his ass and stop playing bro. And stop playing with us, bro. Let him know. No, that's real talk because I think Keshawn is a definite generational talent. I think I don't want to hear that nonsense from him, bro. So if he's trolling us, let it be a troll, but stop that nonsense, bro. We're one of the future best fighters in the game. I don't care about none of that shit that happened in the back of that damn Virginia. I don't give a damn, right? So let's get it together. Let's stop with the pity party. Let's stop with the nonsense. Get over it, bro. Throw some water on your face. You heard? Get a haircut, get a fresh lineup, and get your ass back out here in this conversation because 140.
I mean, if he's gonna be showing up to these ring events, he was out there for Ring 3 in Queens. He, was out there in the building for that Underdog series or whatever it is in Vegas. So
yeah. I was gonna tell you, JR, when you get a chance to talk to him. I actually at the end of
talk, bro. Keyshawn, dog, stop playing. Stop playing. Stop playing with our face, bro. Get back at it, bro. Get back at it.
But y'all know that I wanted Keshawn to fight Teofimo Lopez. That's what I wanted. So
right.
Now hold on. You already let Shakur take some of your food a little bit playing these games. Okay. Right. But nah, bro. Let's get it together. I need you to tighten up. If you stressed out, get yourself some mental therapy, get some help. But I don't want to hear this nonsense. Way too talented, way too damn talented to even be playing with that. Watch what you speak, man. Life and death in the power of the tongue, brother. Damn that retirement talk, bro. Damn that retirement talk.
Hey, JR, can you do me a favor? I'm going to balance it out because I understand Clay's coming from a good place, by the way. He's being Papa Clay right now where he's trying to talk to Keshawn. Let me be the other one, though. Right? So on that Thursday night, at the end of the night, I actually ran into him. He was very nice. First time I ran into him, and he was in a good space. And I was telling him, and you could say, hey, man, you probably met this Filipino guy who really is a big fan of yours. I absolutely love Keshawn Davis. I love what I can see, what he can bring to the boxing space. I can see everything that he can do. And I understand that maybe, he wants to take a break in the sense of like mentally again, man. Boxing is hard. Everybody here knows it. Boxing is I'm not even talking about the physical part, Clay, more so than all the shit you have to take from everyone else who's picking you apart every effing day, and all you're trying to do is just be the best athlete that you can be. And a lot of times that's what happens to the fighters is it gets taken away from them because they're more focused on what everybody else is saying rather than having blinders and going, you know what, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. And I'm going to win or I'm going to lose, but I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. And I feel like Keshawn was headed a good direction, got pulled back because of the incidents and whatnot. But, people are fickle, man. A lot of people are already starting to forget about it. So, Keshawn, whenever you're ready, bro, you are clearly one of the best fighters. You move up to 140. It won't be too long till you actually dominate that division. So I'm going to say positively, JR, please let him know we are looking forward to his comeback, and we believe he'll be a pound-for-pound champion in 2026. All he has to do is put into work, baby. Don't worry about all these negative talks. Forget all of these people, man.
I definitely got over it that night. Like the next morning, I was cool. By the end of that week, I was like, those are two grown men who got into it in the locker room, bro. It looked bad. Fight, bro. Get back to fighting, bro. And people will get over it, bro. I didn't get that emotion. Nobody got hurt, really. Nothing really happened, bro. Like, I'm sorry, bro. I just couldn't give it the attention people wanted to give it. Oh, this is crazy. He did this. Hey, bro. Philly can be mad. That's Philadelphia's own, you know what I'm saying, who kind of got, you know what I mean? I get it. Let them have it, but they ain't got nothing to do with us. As far as boxing concerned, Keshawn, F out of here with that retirement talk, bro. Ain't nobody trying to hear none of that nonsense.
I love that conversation. I don't know what I missed, but I'm just going to tap in.
We just speaking towards, you know, just on for half a second, just gave me some attention just to say that, you know, a lot going on at 140, man, and we need him to be active. That's it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just for touching on Keshawn, though, I think the situation was basically kind of what Angelo said, but the pushback I would give to any of the conversation is these guys are celebrities. You know what I mean? And with celebrities comes responsibility. And I think sometimes we lose that responsibility. They lose that responsibility when it comes to trying to satisfy the fan base and trying to be cool with certain people because they want to grab this fan base because these people from the streets like this guy or this guy from this neighborhood likes this guy. So they try to move different ways. They try to pull other people's fans in. And he moved a certain direction that other fans did, almost like a copycat type thing. I'm not saying he did that, to say the least, but I think a lot of the fighters you have seen mimic one another. Whoever's the more popular, a lot of other fighters have mimicked things. It's almost like the basketball players. These guys weren't wearing purses and dresses. Now because LeBron did it, we all going to do it. Kind of weird, right? So it's kind of like a symbolization of a fraternity with these guys where if it's working for this guy and he's bringing in the fans, I'm going to try to mimic it and I'm going to do it better. The whole side attraction from that was kind of weird. But as far as 140 goes, Hitchens better get his act together. That's all I got to say. He better get his act together because that's the guy that everybody wants to see fight. That's the guy that everybody wants to see make a challenge to one of these other champions. That's the guy that everybody wants to see defend his belt properly. And I don't think he's did anything to really wow the fans besides beat Liam Parle. I don't see the Kambosos thing was a shock. I thought Kambosos would give a little bit more, being that he was, you know, coming off a loss. But I was shocked with that disgusting fight, to say the least. But it is what it is. You know, he came up. It was just a name to get under his belt, so I get it in all due respect. But again, hence the names, right? So 140 is definitely a good playground for these guys moving up, especially Keshawn, to take over. I hope he does so. I hope he bounces back. As far as the other stuff, man, I just think a lot of these guys just need to get out of their own way and stop trying to please the fans so much and just be the star, be the entertainer that you are. Ignore the noise and just go straight forward.
Yeah, word. I mean, I feel you on that front. Particularly the thing there with that 140-pound division. But the thing with the 140 division is that I need to see like some unifications going on, man. I really do. You had the whole thing there. You talk about Richard Hitchens being the IBF champion, right? He had that performance that he had there against George Kambosos Jr. And after that, you have Teofimo Lopez like get in the ring and all that type of stuff, right? And once it gets in the ring, they're like, oh, we're buddy, we're this, you know. It's almost like, you know, the what is it? When they had the Garfield cartoon and they're like the Buddy Bears or some shit, you know, like we are the Buddy Bears and we always get along or some shit, right? I'm like, come on, man, y'all got the same manager. Yeah, y'all could do something, man. You know what I'm saying? Get a unification going. We need to see who is a clear-cut top guy at 140 pounds, right? We don't need to be playing around. You know, at least with Gary Antoine Russell, he's like, yo, I want these fights against these guys. listen, even if he has to, have this fight here against Andy Hirooka, he gets that, takes care of business, then he's going to be going right after, any of those guys. But if you're going to have that fight take place, and it looks like, they're still trying to have Subriel Matias against Dalton Smith, that's going to be hit, that mandatory, then why couldn't we have, Richard Hitchens going up against Teofimo Lopez? Lopez done honored his mandatory challenge when he defeated Arnold Barbosa Jr. So unless the IBF says, hey, Richard Hitchens, you got to fight this guy, why not have that unification? Why is Teofimo Lopez having this open opportunity to face Shakur Stevenson when you have a IBF champion right there in Richard Hitchens right in front of you, and y'all don't want to make that fight happen?
Right.
Yeah.
King of New York right there, right?
Yeah. That's gonna be interesting to see how they play this 140 conversation out a little bit. I think Hitchens, if he's not going to get a unification fight next, bro, I don't know how much longer I see him standing at 140. But it's interesting because does Hitchens come into 147? How does Hitchens transition into 147 look to you guys? Does he compete up there? I mean, how you guys feel about that?
Too small. I thought he was bigger than what he was.
So he's too small for 147, but too big for 140. What are we doing?
and he's there. Well, I mean, he's there at 27. 5'10". Like he could be. He could be at 147 or the welterweight division. But is he like a couple notches down? I guess in a sense. As far as like styles are concerned, to a Devin Haney. Because Devin Haney's there competing at 147 right now, so to speak. And you've seen what he did there against who was it against Jose Luis Ramirez, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we got to see what happens with Haney against Brian Norman Jr. And I'm not favoring Haney in that matchup. I'm just not.
That was an interesting conversation. It's 50-50. It's in the air.
50-50, JR.
I'm not favoring Haney in that matchup because even given his what he's been able to do in the ring as far as like being the undisputed champion 135, right? Getting the WBC belt at 140, having the wins over George Kambosos Jr. and Vasily Lomachenko, right? I think at this particular juncture, he's going up against somebody where that might have the same type of, athleticism in a sense, but has more power and won't necessarily, I would say, they won't be phased that much by the punches of Devin Haney. This might be, by Devin Haney. This might be like how it was with Devin Haney against Ryan Garcia. And the thing is that a number of people criticized Devin Haney because he didn't face that many people that were around his height and had the reach. Because if he did, then he would have some problems that he didn't necessarily have against a lot of the guys that he's faced over the course of his career. Now he's going to have that here once again in Brian Norman Jr. and a guy that's coming up as far as like his overall ability. He's improved in every single fight since the Janelson Bocachica fight. That was like a no contest. So now
I would say arguably the Randall fight really was
the Quentin Randall.
The Quentin Randall fight was probably like the beginning of the. And you know what's interesting about what you're saying, and I want to let you get right back at it and just say that what you become exposed to makes a difference in your boxing career as far as your development. And I think what people are saying without saying it is that because Devin wasn't used to fighting people with his same arm reach or his same height, that did he develop properly in that space? Did he get better, or did he just kind of like level out a little bit until he got in front of Ryan Garcia, and then boom, what he was used to doing, he couldn't do in front of somebody who had those physical intangibles, and it became a bigger obstacle for him to cross over. But I think this fight with Brian Norman Jr. is going to be the testament to it. It's going to be the litmus test for us as fans, because now he went against Jose Ramirez. He didn't struggle in that fight. I don't feel like he struggled, but it did seem like he was very reserved and didn't want to fight. I don't know what the story was behind that. Bill Haney would have you believe that was by design, to kind of respond to the boxing space, criticizing him not being able to get away from a left hook. You know what I'm saying? And keeping that right hand up and not getting hit, fine. But I agree with you to say this. That night against Brian Norman Jr., we're going to get some questions. It's going to be a litmus test. And we do need to get the answers to these questions. But I'm going to give it right back to you because, yeah, man, Brian Norman brings intangibles. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing with that Devin Haney fight, right, against Ramirez, right? You know, I was watching it live there at what it was, Times Square. And I'm looking at the style there of Devin Haney, and they had like Shakur Stevenson as one of the multiple fighters that were there in attendance for that, right? And I'm looking at that fight, and I'm like, man, Shakur Stevenson should be saying, he copied my whole fucking flow, word for word, bar for bar. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it looked like in the style that Devin Haney had there against Jose Ramirez, because he was not taking any risk at all for the majority of the fight. And then when he did, it was like, okay, you didn't step it up to another notch. You know what I'm saying? Now this is coming from Devin Miles Haney, that with the accolades that he has been listed in pound for pound rankings, but you can run into some people that might have that style that'll give you a lot of problems. And the thing with that fight against Ryan Garcia was, one, they had the familiarity with each other going from the amateur days, so that was obvious. But two, when you're going up against somebody that has like that height and the speed that's much different, then you gotta approach that fight differently. And regardless of what happened there with Ryan Garcia, what he took or whatever it is, from a style standpoint, Devin Haney fought that all wrong. If he does that against Brian Norman Jr., he's gonna get stopped.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have to throw a little bit of caution to the wind in this fight. Not a lot, because that'll get you clipped, but it's gonna be about weathering that storm a little bit. Risking getting hit. Like Terrence Crawford did with Canelo, right? Like Terrence appreciated establishing the distance. He appreciated the danger that Canelo brought to the table, but there were points in that fight where Terrence had to throw a little caution to the wind and take some chances and say, you know what, I might take a shot, or I might have to, catch a shot so I can give a shot, and I have to stay in that punching range. I can't just escape the pocket, because my opportunities are there based on me being able to counterpunch some of the things that Canelo's doing. Is Devin going to do that with Brian Norman?
Nah, that particular fight was different to me. Okay. And that's why I kind of like initially going into that fight that I picked Terrence Crawford, because of the styles of Terrence. Well, the styles tell of the tape, so to speak, his dimensions in comparison to Canelo Alvarez, and given that Canelo Alvarez what he had done for his previous 5 fights, he's not fighting anyone near to the level of a Terrence Crawford, regardless of the weight class.
Right.
So I felt like Terrence Crawford, given him being just about a little bit taller, having a longer reach, and being able to fight from a southpaw in an orthodox stance, and he fought southpaw the whole time, which was another issue that Canelo has had over the course of his professional career, that I feel like, okay, all he had to do was keep the distance, number one, and then two, once he got within range, if he was going to be just a little bit more defensively responsible enough to, try to be able to, go back and forth with Canelo. And you've seen that within the middle part of that fight, that Crawford kind of realized, oh, this is what Canelo's about? I bet. So if he did have to go into close quarters, he knew what to do. That's why you had that much action that you had between both of those guys in round 9, because Crawford's like, okay, I don't see anything here where I feel like I'm going to be seriously hurt. So, yeah, I could go ahead and, take these risks. But here with Devin Haney, given that we've seen Devin Haney, knock down on a multiple occasions there against Ryan Garcia, that has really gotten into the psyche there of Devin Haney. That's why you saw him fight the fight that he did against Jose, Ramirez, when he didn't necessarily have to do that against Jose Ramirez. Now, if he has that particular approach here against Brian Norman Jr., is it going to work to the point where he could, kind of get away from, escape and everything like that?
Right.
And as I said with Brian Norman Jr., I think that he's been improving to the point where he could really cut off the ring enough. I'm not saying that he would be great at cutting off the ring. I don't know about like his level of experience to that point, but I think that he could do it enough to really have Devin Haney in trouble.
Okay, I like it. I'm gonna have to put on my Devin Haney Superman fan cap real quick, which I hate doing because then I'll be called a Devin fan. But let me just put this on for a second. So Abdullah, WBC interim champion, defeated by Devin Haney, 5-9. Moran, contender in the Super 6 tournament or WBC tournament, knocked out by Devin Haney, 5-11. Linares, 5-8. Santiago, first defense of Devin Haney's WBC title, was 5-11. Athletic fighter as well. Juan Carlos Bargos, 5'9.5". Another fighter that had a good reach. And then last but not least, we have Ryan and Regis, both clearing 5'8". So for as far as the athletic part, yeah, there's a few fighters there that were on that list for being unathletic. But we also have the fighters that were just as big, if not bigger than Devin Haney, that were in the ring with him when he fought them. On that note, we also want to keep and promise that Devin Haney is a brawler when he needs to be. We just haven't seen much of it because Devin Haney hasn't had to show that he was a brawler. Once he fought the Linares fight, he got in there with Jojo Diaz, and we see him go toe-to-toe. After that, people said that he was rocked and he would not stand in the middle of the ring no more because he doesn't want to get clipped. Devin Haney is going to surprise the world with this fight. I'm not taking anything away from Brian Norman Jr., but what I see with Brian Norman Jr. is inexperience, and I see ring IQ with Devin Haney. I think Devin Haney is going to show you that he has power, and at 147, he'll have more power than he ever had, and he might be faster than Brian Norman Jr. And he might be able to put him in a situation where you may see Brian Norman unexpectedly getting clipped. Now, I also noticed some differences in training with Brian Norman Jr., which I have never noticed before when we see some of this footage of him. He's been doing a lot of footwork, a lot of movement, a lot of cutting off the ring, as you said, but he's also been doing a lot of like slickness in his style as he's training, which looks unfamiliar to me with him. Not saying that he's never done it before. This is the first time we've really been exposed to him training, but me being exposed to that says that he's looking to get in this ring and be the slick fighter. And he always said that he can fight either way. You heard his father. He can fight any way he wants, any style he wants. So if he goes out there and tries to be the slick fighter and gets outside of his element of being a knockout puncher or being an aggressive fighter, we may see Devin with the knockout. We may see something that we haven't seen in 6 years? Devin put somebody on the canvas. That's very possible. Now, on the other hand, Devin has been questionable about his chin. He got hit with a guy that had Osirine in his pocket. And the Langerome, whatever it was, that they said they found, and then they couldn't find, whatever the case, because the trays were too small, IV use, all that, etc., whatever. That guy has some Superman strength, punched Devin in the face 3 times, which Devin got up. They said it was more than one knockdown. They counted 3, but he got up from every single one and still continued to fight, where that fight was so close that it was a majority decision. So it could have been very close to a draw. At the end of the day, skills pay the bills, as Bill says, and we'll see in this fight, because I'm not taking nothing away from Brian Norman. I think he's a great talent. I think he's an up and coming fighter. He may have the opportunity to beat Devin, and Devin may have the opportunity to beat him as it goes back and forth. I am going to stay down the middle with that, but that's for now until we get closer to the fight. But I do want to just put the defense on Devin's back a little bit and say, look, this is some of the attributes he has. So we'll see.
So can I just add to this, and let me balance it out again for you, JR. So we've had this discussion on this panel. Clay's had Brian Norman Sr., respect to Brian Norman Sr. I've interviewed Brian Norman Sr. on the Hangout spot before also. But I always say it's 50-50. And my friend, my Raider brother, Severe, who's on the chat, shout out to you, bro. Thanks for joining us today. When the Raider Nation always asks me these things, like, hey, man, who should we bet on? For that particular fight, I told them all, whoever is the under, whoever is the plus money, you take that person. So if they're going to say, like kind of what you're talking about, JR, oh, Brian Norman's going to kill this guy, blah, 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 and it swings plus 300 for Haney, you bet Haney. If it's the other way around, where they go, I don't know, like what Ray's saying, right? Haney's, was in the pound for pound list as recent as March. He was pound for pound number 10, right? So I don't know, man. Then whoever the plus money is, you go plus money. but someone will definitively put their foot in someone's ass on this fight one way or another, because, and this is where Clay hates it when I do this, but I'm trying to kick Canelo out of the pound for pound list. And if Devin Haney beats Brian Norman Jr., however he beats him, I say we put his ass right back. Bye-bye, Canelo. And we put, because technically speaking, Haney's undefeated. And I told Clay the other 9 are undefeated. So, so I'm just saying, right? Now, the second thing is this. If Brian Norman does spark Haney the way you're saying, JR, knocks him out, like puts him out. Dude, Brian Norman's on one of the biggest knockout runs in a 147 career. Everybody's going to start talking about him like he's the next coming of Julian Jackson, right? And why can't you put him in the pound for pound list now?
Why not?
He doesn't prove he's the best 147. He's so good, boots ran. You know what I'm saying? Like,
First of all,
They put a stop to that.
yeah, come on. We got.
I'm just trying to make the show
I
fun.
I know. Like you said, you have been talking with Brian Norman Sr. and so have I. But we know what the whole situation is with all of that. Yeah, I do hear what you're saying in reference to the thing there with pound for pound, because as I mentioned, with Santos Saul Alvarez Barragan giving his loss to Terrence Crawford, I do have him like currently at number 10 in the pound for pound rankings. I have Devin Haney at number 13 in the pound for pound rankings currently, right?
That's fair.
If Haney does win against Norman, then yeah, you certainly have to put him in the top 10, because as I said, he's been a former undisputed lightweight champion. He has been the WBC super lightweight champion and would be now the WBO welterweight champion with the win. Right. I see, like you were saying there, as far as like being a 50-50 fight, even the odds are like, supremely close right now. It's almost like, for the money line, there's no point of even putting something down on that particular fight unless if you're going for the result, right?
How about for knockout, though, JR? What's the money line for knockout?
Oh, the money line for knockout. I have to check that there.
Guess what's the money line for Norman knockout? Because again, a lot of people might lose that money because Haney ain't ever been knocked out. So technically speaking, you should be betting decision anyways. But there's gonna be a lot of excited people because they saw Brian Norman spark Jin Sasaki, and then they saw the Ryan Garcia fight last year, and they're gonna be like, "This is exactly what's gonna happen." It's like, slow down, man. It doesn't work that. Boxing doesn't work that way. Haney's not just gonna stand there to get knocked out. So it's got to be like at least plus 500 for Norman to knock him out, right?
Something like, I guess, I'm gonna try to, well, I ain't gonna mention who it is because I don't, necessarily do cheap plugs on, other people's joints.
Right.
But let's see, plus 225 for Brian Norman Jr.
Oh, that's it. That ain't much at all. That means they don't believe he's gonna knock him out.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how about
everything is like for the method? Everything is plus money, but
what's the plus money on Haney knocking him out?
Plus 900.
Oh,
there you go, Ray. There you go, bro.
Wow, that's the bet to take right there.
Plus 900.
You can put $10 on that and make a bag.
I think that what a lot of people aren't embracing the idea of is that there might legitimately Devin Haney's resume up to this point, this may be a whole different gear change for him in a way where a lot of the things we saw him do might not translate into this fight. And the reason I'm saying that is because if those things don't translate, is Devin Haney confident enough to fight toe-to-toe with Brian Norman Jr.? I don't know, man. I think the PTSD point of the conversation is very important in this, man. I think the psychology of Devin Haney is very, very important going into this fight, man. And I think people are just looking past it and they're going, man, he's done enough in his past, and they're not acknowledging that Ryan Garcia fight. They want to discount it because they want to say Ryan had the Ostarine in his system and this was a one-off here and one-off there, and they're not acknowledging the reality of the physical battery that this man got in that fight, and the fact that he's about to take Ryan Garcia to court, the fact that he took a year and some change off from boxing. We see the smiles, we see the face off, the confidence. We see Devin pushing Brian Norman. We see his security grabbing Brian Norman. We see this effort from the Haney camp to push, to spark intimidation into Brian Norman's camp, and we see how that has failed. Brian Norman's camp is more confident than they've ever been. If anything, they're reading through it. We had Senior on here. They're seeing it. In their mind, they're walking away going, did you see how scared they were? They had to have the security grab us up. Devin talking about we small, trying to intimidate us with experience, talking about who is he, trying to defeat us before we even get in this ring. They're not, that part of the game has not worked, right? So a lot of the people who are supporting Devin Haney, shout out to his fan base, I don't see enough people embracing or acknowledging the elephant in the room when it comes to Devin. Enough. So they're not acknowledging. They just want to look past it and be like, yo, did you see how he was in there with Linares? Did you see how he was in there with Ryan?
Okay.
Was in there with Jose Ramirez? Guys,
right.
We need to see what he's going to look like against Brian Norman, because if he fights,
of course,
in that ring, the way he fought his last two fights,
right,
very bad news for him.
So let me just counter with this again. I'm just trying to bring balance to the room. But hold on, right? Let me just counter with this.
All right.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring balance to it. To Ray's point, and Severe puts it on the chat too, you have to acknowledge the fact that he was controlling and borderline dominating the Garcia fight until he got caught in the 7th round, right? So Severe, very good point. Okay, our chat room's very smart most of the time. Unless they're calling certain people clowns, then y'all are all crazy. So now, secondly, Clay, and this is what we were saying that we constantly back with our graphs and our talking points during the Canelo Crawford fight, right? Leading up to it, we kept saying we don't know. Well, we don't know. We could do all the eye tests we want, but until it happens, we won't know. So my point about Haney, to your counter, sir, is Haney, we all already have known that he's always been a big 135, big 140, right? So maybe just like Terrence Crawford, he's finally now filling into the weight that he actually is supposed to carry. And here's my second point, Clay, as to why I keep saying this is 50-50. Ain't nobody thought Roberto Duran was going to do that to Sugar Ray Leonard. And he beat Sugar Ray Leonard in Montreal at 147 pounds when Sugar Ray Leonard was the baddest man in the planet. So if Duran can do it, and we're saying Haney's supposed to be one of the best.
Duran, shout out to T Severe, right? And I want to highlight this, that what you said. He said until he got caught in that 7th round, right? And I think that's the most important part of that statement. Until he got caught in the 7th round. It changed after that.
Yeah.
And it's important to acknowledge that him going through that outside of the Ostarine, he was already going through that regardless. He was questioning himself. The Ostarine gave him a second chance at life to entertain the idea that, it wasn't what I thought it was, which was I was starting to believe that I lost it. That I've never been dominated that way. Devin spoke to his mentality. And what he did was he took the Ostarine and he turned it into, it wasn't that I was keeping my right hand down. It wasn't that, I'm saying I didn't have the answers. It's the fact that he had Ostarine in his system. And we can give the weight to the Ostarine to a certain degree because it was Ryan Garcia doing something illegitimate and illegal and playing games, and he had to be held accountable. But the truth of the matter is, does Devin believe that? Does he truly believe that? And if he does believe that, we'll see what that looks like against Brian Norman Jr. But we all know we've all been in situations where we sell. I remember as a kid going down a hill on one of those roller things that you sit on, like, you know what I'm saying? Like you sit on it and it rolls down the hill. And I lost control, fell off and ended up hitting the car, right? It was diabolical, bro. Scraped up my arm, right? And then I sucked it up. And I made people believe it wasn't a big deal. I'm good. But when I got in my house, I cried. You heard? I cried because it hurt.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? I tried, you know what I'm saying? I went in my crib. I played it off like I was just going to go clean myself off. But I went inside and cried in the bathroom, bro, because it hurt. And guess what? I ain't get back on that damn thing. But I didn't tell people it was because I crashed out and I had PTSD. I never got back on that thing again. And to this day, I believe if I had to get back on those things again, I'd remember that moment when I was in like the 9th or 8th grade. I can't remember what it was, 9th or 8th grade when it happened to me. So we sell the space what we want the space to see us be. We put on the looks and we carry ourselves accordingly. But then we get in the ring and we run around like we did against Jose Ramirez. We shock our whole camp outside of Bill. Shane Mosley going record, like, I don't know what that was. I had dinner with those guys that weekend. I had dinners with a lot of that training camp. And everybody, shout out to my brother Blue Blood, who was on that dinner, and everybody was like, yo, Devin gonna mess around. Stop this dude. I ain't seen this kind of Devin in the longest time. The way he's sparring, the things he's doing in the camp, blah, 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 blah. That night of the fight, Shane was looking at Bill like, yo, what are we doing here, bro? When did this happen? When did we make this game plan? We never worked on this. Where is this coming from? Shane said, I don't even know. I'll put my hands up. I wash my hands. I don't know what's going on. Something changed. Okay. They put all that money into that camp to train and get Devin ready, and they got into that night of the fight, and they did not do what they trained in that camp to do. Now, was Bill and Devin trying to fool Shane? Was he fooling the whole world, including his own camp? Because they'd have you believe that he was fooling us, right? That he went in there and went a different direction to throw Jose Ramirez and Robert Garcia off, right? But you did such a good job that you threw Shane off, that you threw your camp off. Bro. I was there having dinner with these guys. I'm telling you guys, they did not see that performance coming. They don't know what that performance came from. What happened?
Right.
And you bring up a good point there when it came to the thing as far as like how Devin Haney responded to his fight against Ryan Garcia, right? And I kind of bring it up to like when Deontay Wilder had the fight against Tyson Fury in February of 2020, right? And how, he got beat up and everything like that. And, there was, he had his, whole little thing about, crab in a bucket referee and a disloyal trainer. Yeah, he did have that. But also, he had the thing where he wanted that get back with Tyson Fury, right? And when he eventually went and had that fight against Tyson Fury, we had one of the best heavyweight fights that we have seen in a long time, right? Because Deontay Wilder was a competitor from the beginning to the end. Regardless of how many times he got knocked down, he went and competed, right? You don't see that type of energy from Devin Miles Haney, or you didn't see it there against, Jose Luis Ramirez. So you kind of like say, okay, what do we see from Devin Haney that could make people think that he will kind of go all out in a fight of this magnitude against a Brian Norman Jr., who's had, one of the more impressive knockout victories this year, So I could see some people not having that much confidence behind Devin Haney in this upcoming fight on November 22nd to really kind of approach Brian Norman like he could really, get with them as far as like, back and forth or something like that.
Cool. So
we're going to find out on November 22nd. I want to make that clear, right? And I don't know who's going to win this fight. It's 50-50 to me. I think Devin has all the tools to win this fight. I believe he has it. I believe he has a pedigree to do it. But that mental, the psychology of a fighter, and the greatest fighters in the game, the greatest trainers in the game will tell you every day of the week, bro, 70 to 80% mental, 30 to 20% physical. That mental part is a lot more complicated than just triangle theorying our way into this fight of what it's supposed to be. What it's gonna be is gonna be based off that performance November 22nd. My bad. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah,
hold on. Let me just do this because I won't forget it. Shout out to Gavin Goins with the $5 super chat. Says controlling the fight until the 7th. The 7th, he said Dev got clipped in the first 30 seconds of the fight, and he does not have the mentality of a Bud or Duran. Ouch.
Well, I mean, he stood there and fought after he got clipped and clipped Ryan back. So I
think he got hard for sure.
You know what I mean? Exactly. He got enough heart.
Yeah.
But let's just put it on the fact that he did acknowledge that he didn't perform well and he didn't move out the way of Ryan's hand, as well as when he was talking about Oscarine, because he definitely said that on the Ariane interview that he didn't get out the way and he should have gotten out the way. He should have been more protected. And he didn't do so. He's got in the ring with Ramirez, maybe with a little PTSD. I think we all acknowledge that there was some type of acknowledgement of him putting his hand up and working on that left hand and not moving it from his face and keeping a certain distance from Ramirez. Also, you got to put in the game plan of that Ramirez fight. If you Ramirez never cut off the ring, and every time he did cut off the ring, he was landed and jolted with punches and combos from Devin Haney, which we haven't seen Devin laying combos like that in quite some time. He stayed on the back foot, and was safe to say that he wanted that Ryan fight, and he just wanted to play it safe. That's what a lot of us speculated to him, just getting to the next round and making it an easy cruising fight just to get there. Did he give us the performance he wanted? Absolutely not. Is there a possibility it was PTSD? Absolutely. All these things are true at the same time as not being true, because we don't really know. We can only go by what Bill told us. We can only go by what Shane told us. We can only go by what Devin told us. We can only go by Ryan Garcia's plan was, hey, this guy's susceptible to the left hook. Go in there and hook him no matter what you do. And he was unable to be successful in that point. And we seen that they had no switch to their game plan to change anything up. So on that note, I have to see what Devin can do against a Brian Norman. And as far as Devin not having a chin or not having heart, he has all the heart in the world that I've seen from a fighter. Devin's never shied away from any of the top fighters that he sparred with. I hate to talk about sparring because sparring is really not something we should be talking about. But I would say that he's been in there, and he's also wanted to challenge the top fighters. A lot of people that dislike Devin is the people that like and support Tank Davis. That's the biggest category, and that's the biggest smudge on his name. So they point out all these factors, just like the people that like Devin point out the other factors. When you have the fighters out there like a Shakur Stevenson who acknowledge that Devin is a bad boy and Devin is a champ, a contender, a gladiator in that ring. He'll fight anybody and he'll put on the best performance against anybody. But we forget to acknowledge those points when we get it from other fighters. Remember, he sparred Bud, he sparred all these other guys as well, even Spence even. So Devin has always been in the ring with all these other fighters and got accreditation for his way he spars, fights, and carries himself. Now, as we see in the ring, yes, there are some challenges that I think that need to be met. Is it because of the weight losses? Is it because of the struggle to make weight and that issue and then ballooning up to a certain amount and he's not hydrated correctly? Those things are questionable. I will never take that away from anybody that questions that because I think they're valid points. But as far as Devin getting in this ring with Brian Norman, we don't know what we're going to see. As Angelo alluded to, and if we don't know, we don't know. Like I said, we don't know what kind of style that Brian Norman's going to come out with. We see him training a certain way, and I'm telling you, when you start training a certain way, you either a creature of habit because you do what you always do, or you try to do something you're not capable of doing, and then you find yourself in a situation you're not supposed to be in. So until we get to that fight and that point and that bell rings, we don't know what's going to happen. And I'm all up for grabs to say it's a 50-50 fight, if not a 52 to 48% fight in the favor of Brian Norman Jr. You know what I mean? In my opinion, but we can go from anywhere. Any takes? Anything?
Yeah, I think the fight is one of the most interesting fights on that card because we do have a lot we don't know. There's a lot of boxes that need to be checked. I think if we deal with the Devin who doesn't have that Ryan Garcia fight, who doesn't get knocked down multiple times in that fight, who doesn't go through what he went through, I think it's a little easier to call this fight.
I agree.
And can I bring this all the way back around to the beginning of our show, which is for the longest time there are a lot of Tank lovers and Haney haters. Well, who are you all hating now? Because Tank is stepping up to do a circus fight while Devin Haney is putting himself in danger against the hardest punching person in a higher weight class. So that again, man, it's that you gotta, in our show, what we try to do, Clay, right, is we don't tear down fighters, we build them up. So I think it's just proper time for us to build up Devin Haney at this point.
Oh, and I knew I had to add on.
He's been built up. He's been built up. Brian Norman's being built up. Boxing is being built up. The best fights are being made right now. This is a great time for boxing. The best are fighting the best, bro. And unfortunately, shout out to what Tank's doing with Jake Paul, but that's becoming a niche space, right? And the reality is boxing is turned up. Xander's looking to unify. Shakur's looking to make a fight with Teofimo. Teofimo's responding accordingly for now. You know what I mean? Jaron Ennis might be in a little bit in the gray area. People don't know who Lima is, but we know what the 2026 is going to look like for 154. Virgil
Crawford Canelo just happened, bro.
Yeah, Crawford Canelo just happened. I mean, even David Benavidez and Anthony Yardy is an uptick. Champions are being made, like Abdullah Mason going for his first title. Great unifications are happening with Bam Rodriguez. Monster Inoue is looking across the board.
Boxing is doing looking
to fight the best, and fights are being made happen. And Brian Norman Jr. and Devin Haney is just a tip of that iceberg. And Devin Haney, in my opinion, moving according to his brand, and his brand has always been to fight the best fights that were out there for him to fight. He's always fought that uphill battle to make those fights happen, and this doesn't shock me at all that he's fighting with Brian Norman. This fight is interesting because of all these intangibles. It's interesting because of Devin Haney's past year and a half to 2 years of boxing. To see him perform at that high level of Regis Pro grade, dominate going up at 140. We've seen him go through the crazy weight cuts at 135 and in 140 have a bad weight cut against Ryan Garcia, combined with the fact that Ryan Garcia blew away the weight limit by 3.5 pounds, then had Ostarine in his system, hurt Devin Haney the way he did. He made a return fight against Jose Ramirez that was lackluster. We did not get the questions we wanted answered, and now he goes into this fight with the biggest puncher at 147, one of the most dangerous fighters at 147, if not the most dangerous fighters at 147, without answering those questions for us about what happened with Ryan Garcia. We didn't see him answer those questions in the ring. It makes the fight intriguing, and it's dangerous, but it's definitely goes right along with Devin Haney's brand, with the whole entire Haney brand, with the way they've approached boxing since day one. And we never going to take that. I will never take that away from Devin. But regardless, as uncomfortable as it may be for some fans to hear, I personally, if nobody else does, goes into this fight wondering about which Devin Haney we're going to see in that ring with Brian Norman, and can he be what he used to be? And I'm going into it with those questions, and I'll find out the answers. A lot of fans already got the answers. They know who Devin is, and that's what's up. You guys are confident. Here are my questions going into the fight.
I did want to add to what I was saying earlier, too, because I forgot to put it on the other side of Brian Norman as we look at what he successfully did, right? So when he beat he got a no contest with a knockdown against Bochica. Then he went into Centillion fight. He beat Centillion. It was a really good fight. He got the knockout there. Then he fought Derek Cuevas, who was a guy who was actually touching him up in the first round, and then turned around in the second round. It was kind of like even. They did give Brian Norman that round. I would have gave it to him as well. But then he ended up getting a knockout with the TKO stoppage with Cuevas, who has been out of the ring for 2 years. Not to mention Jin Sasaki, fighter at 135 that moved up to 147 and was a pressure fighter fighting a lot of European and Australian fighters, including and also Japanese and Chinese fighters. So when he got the opportunity to fight a stateside fighter in his ways, he just came forward. Even by getting knocked down, he still didn't stop coming forward. So he played into the hands of a puncher like Brian Norman. Do we see Devin Haney even playing into those hands? That's another thing we need to take account of and look at when we're looking at this fight. I'm not telling you again that Brian Norman is not capable of doing these things, because I believe he has the equipment to do it. Trust me, they're right and they're left. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that we understand what the level playing field is, regardless of how we look at what Devin Haney fears may be. Does Brian Norman show any fears? Maybe not. But does he have things that hurt him when it comes to him boxing and being inexperienced? That was my only point I was trying to make this whole time. And I think that's where we have to look at. And that's where we have to make our judgment call.
I like the confidence of the chat, too. Clay.
Listen, man.
One way or the other, they're all
Yeah,
confident with their picks.
There's not too many people riding the fence on this conversation. Most people are on one side and the other side. Not too many people.
It's a hard bargain.
My guy, JR, he has what he's speaking on. It holds weight, man. I'm with him. I'm not with you as far as Brian Norman winning the fight. I'm 50-50. I am riding the fence. I don't know who wins the fight, but what you're saying, that's what I've been saying as far as those elements. Well, you about to say something, JR. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm about to roll out
Step
got
out.
a few things here, man. Because I had like a couple of updates as far as like a few things.
Get us up to speed.
From Lamont Roach's side, hopefully I get more about that in the next week or so. Because there's going to be more to that story there. And usually I have conversation with Coach Ronnie Shields on Tuesdays, but when I was off the picture there for a little bit, got a call from him. He's going to be in Dallas there for the upcoming press conference that they're going to have for the fight card of Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Erickson Lubin. So with that being said, we won't have the live show that we usually have on Tuesdays there with Coach Ronnie.
You're going to be there then, right? You're gonna go to the November 8th then, right?
I don't know about going to the November 8th. There's going to be a few trips that I'll have planned, and I won't be able to kind of like make something like that there. I'm not certain if I could do that one. But like Clay was saying there's a lot of action that's still upcoming here for the rest of the year that fight fans could look forward to. We kind of had this whole thing about the exhibition fight that's taking place on November 14th. There's still another press conference that's coming up here in a few hours with that. But that still doesn't mean that there's like a lot of boxing for fight fans to go ahead and check out. That's the thing about it is that we do have these exhibitions, these Tank versus Jakes, these Tyson versus Floyd Mayweather for the following year for 2026 plan or whatever it is, but it still doesn't take away from the, as I mentioned there, Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Erickson Lubin. You got Sebastian Fundora versus Keith Thurman. You got this Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. You got the David Benavidez versus Anthony Yarde. You got a lot of these action fights that we could look forward to here within the sport of boxing that could keep boxing in that conversation. So that's the thing about it is that as long as the fight fans keep those particular in the conversation and keep that going, then you'll still get to see more of these high profile or very intriguing fights here in the future. So that's the thing about it. Big ups to brother Clay here, my guy Ray, and then also salute to you there, brother Angelo there. So we'll be able to catch up here later on down the line, and I'll check y'all later, y'all.
Wait, before you go, wait.
I'm gonna hear you in the chat.
Wait.
Tonight.
So you need to come by here more often, bro. So I'm gonna start hollering at you. I know how I'm gonna handle it. I know how I'm about to approach it. So, but I'm about to approach it. But definitely on the ground, a lot of information and a lot of perspective to share in the space. So I appreciate you, man, answering my phone call and showing up for the show today, man. Looking forward to have you up here a lot more often, family.
Yeah. And then JR, can I ask you real quick too? And you're awesome, bro. Are you gonna cover at all the Najee Lopez that's happening this week in Kissimmee, Florida?
No, I won't be able to make it down there to that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. A lot of those pro box joints. Yeah, I gotta figure that out. Actually, that's actually a good fight though. Man.
It's a great card, right?
Yeah, man. Because they had like switched it up because that's like now been the main event or whatever it is, right? So yeah, that's going to be a good little scrap there for this Saturday on Pro Box. But yeah,
and this is and JR, this is what we try to do on the show is we're trying to tune everybody into the fact that boxing is so hot that you could watch Pro Box TV on free on YouTube, and that's why I asked, like, hey, are you covering that? Because that's a great fight.
Yeah. I mean, I've covered a few of the Pro Box events. Of course, we had one recently here September 5th in the DC area, but as far as like the ones over in the Kissimmee area, down there between Tampa and Orlando, if I'm able to try to get around that area, then yeah, I could, try to cover those things. But I haven't been down there recently to be at one of those events. But hopefully I'll be there in the future, though. All right.
Cool.
Hey,
Thanks,
man,
JR.
make sure y'all give JR a follow, man. He's doing his thing at the Boxing Source. I don't know what nights do you come on, because I be trying to find you sometimes. I be just missing you.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Sundays.
Okay, usually. Y'all heard it here first. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Sundays, man. Don't miss out. He has a great panel sometimes up there. He's always breaking things down. He's very cordial, and he's respectable to the game. Respect that man and give him a follow.
Right, and follow him on Instagram, guys. The Boxing Source on Instagram.
Yep, no doubt, man. TheBoxingSource.net. And on that, I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.
Brother.
All right, JR, peace. Yeah, interesting. Good conversation.
Great guest. Great guest.
He's awesome.
I called him immediately. Once I saw him ask that question, I gave him, I've been had his phone number, so I gave him a call and we built a little bit. And I was like, you know what?
Let's get him
conversation on the channel, bro. I was like, let's stop this conversation because we just talking on the phone. I'm like, let's have this conversation on the show today if you have the time.
For you guys who missed it on the chat, the coolest thing is JR was the one that asked the most real question during the press conference, which was kind of can we say poorly answered?
Groundbreaking and viral. It went viral.
Yeah, I think it had potential to do a Sean Zattel type of energy about it. Mm-hmm. But it definitely had it was definitely an interesting moment because 100% that press conference was getting ready to go by and nothing come out of it. It was one of those questions that kind of saved, because it was like an opportunity was there to ask some real questions, but nobody was going to do it because everybody was on a glazing campaign. Trying to make this into something it wasn't. I thought Jake Paul was diabolical, trying to paint this picture that this was going to be some huge feat for him. Like it was just like
he was trying. It was like dead for that.
Yeah, when he was trying to do it, like, yeah, man, this is gonna. You guys said I can't. It's just like I don't know. I was like, it was kind of cringe. I think the press conference was very cringe because nobody in their right mind was taking that fight seriously. So to paint this picture that Jake was, again, I'm going to show the world, like it was nasty work. And then Tank at the same time, looked like he was being used almost. Like it seemed
Thank you for saying that, by the way. Thank you, Clay. That's what it felt like, bro. They were using him.
You worked your whole career to get yourself to this point to be the fighter that you are. And no matter what people might want to say, I don't hold as much against Tank Davis as people would like to think I do, right? I think this dude is a generational talent. I can't say that enough. So there was a certain personal bit of like disgust there for me to see that kind of fighter, that level fighter be on that stage across from Jake Paul, allowing Jake Paul to
do the things he did.
It
looked like he got bitched. Let me say it. He looked like he got bitched straight up. It just looked like he was out of his element. He was bitched. And he allowed Jake Paul to do things. And when he got frustrated to respond to him, it was about a mohawk. Like, oh, you got an ugly mohawk. Like, bro, what is going on? Then you offered your hand to him, and this guy just mocked you, sent balloons to you, put clowns on stage. Everything you can imagine him doing, talking about your situation in the legal situation. Everything to discuss you, to try to get you amped up, and you just didn't respond the way that people wanted you to. You just were like, blah. And I think to turn around and shake his hand at the end of that, like, and offer your hand first was diabolical, crazy, and just not Tank Davis. It's just something that we haven't seen before.
Right.
Think, that was like, why is this happening again? Even the look in his eyes when they were doing the stare down was like he was submissive to him.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, it did look crazy. It looked very weird.
Well, here's what I'll say too, is I'm glad you're both bringing it up, and thank you for saying that, Clay, because that is how I feel, where it's like, man, you guys are just using this kid right now who's not in the right mental space. Like, this is fucking wrong. Everything about this is wrong. It's so wrong, in fact, that the Atlanta Commission was like, well, you're not doing it here. All right. And keep in mind, Clay, Atlanta was the commission that when the entire country was going against Muhammad Ali, gave him his license back and said, nope, we're going to license you against Jerry Quarry so you can get back on track. That's the same commission, bro. And this commission was like, hell to the nah. I don't even understand how this would work. So what do? They're lucky that whole circus didn't end up in Puerto Rico, bro. Because
that's where I thought it was going.
You know, Miami is like, I guess we'll take your money, right? But as to your point, Clay, how much money will there really be? Because this is such a clown show, right? And you could dress a burger however you want it, but this is still bad for you. Burgers. This isn't. I mean, like, I'm not saying all burgers are bad for you. I'm talking about how, like, you know how they dress up McDonald's. But let's be honest, Clay. If you went on a McDonald's diet, you and I both know that there's statistics out there that say you would probably die sooner rather than later if you go on a McDonald's diet, right? 100%. That's the state of boxing, brother. Right. If all we saw was these Jake Paul Tysons, Jake Paul Cesar Chavez, Jake Paul Tank Davis, that's like eating motherfucking McDonald's all the time, right? So we've been lucky enough that we've been getting the best food, like dietary great food with high level chef style food, and now we're just kind of mad at the fact that they're trying to offer us a burger.
Talk about $200 burger, Clay. Give him your $200 burger statement.
I told him about it. We talked about the burger, and he told me about a $5,000 burger that was crazy, right? But yeah, man. It is what it is. I'm interested. I'm watching it because let me tell you something. I'm not butthurt at all at what Tank and Jake is going to do. I tell you guys over and over again, I tapped out of the Tank Davis game. I have no expectations for this dude like that. I don't care. I'm very interested in Shakur versus T.O., and I'm not even thinking about Shakur versus Tank. I'm not thinking about Devin or T.O. versus Tank. I'm genuinely not, right? From the outside looking in, I'm telling you, and I am on the outside looking in, what I see and who I feel bad for are the fans, the Tank fans in particular, because I see them wrestling with this reality that is settling in as the days go by about what their fighter is going to do and how their fighter that they are fans of is showing out and really disregarding their interests and doesn't care about them. And he's speaking very vocally. And I don't know if Tank realizes that the people he's getting into, I don't know, as I watched that press conference yesterday, I don't know if Tank realizes that he's at war with his own fans.
Yes.
Right? Like it was interesting to me to see him being different with the media space, and the fans that were asking things of him were not his enemies, were not the people who are saying he's scared of Shakur or that he doesn't want to make that. It was actually his fans, and it's been his fans for the past month and some change that have been ever since that Lamont Roach fight when he made that pick, and people were saying there was a cherry pick there, and they were trying to discredit Lamont Roach and be like, yo, this dude is doing it again. His fans stood tall and strong and said, you don't know Lamont. He's a champion at 130. He has a history with Gervonta Tank Davis. You guys are dismissing Lamont Roach and what he brings to the table. And for him to have that kind of performance against Lamont, it almost vindicated the fan base who was discounting the Shakur Stevenson fight and said, you guys made Shakur Stevenson the end all be all, but you tried to look past Lamont Roach. Meanwhile, Tank was giving us our boxer Tank was giving us a great fight. You guys wanted to say that it was a one blah 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 blah, even though Vegas disagreed with it and the odds were showing that he was a super favorite and that Lamont Roach was the big underdog in his fight. Everybody looked forward now. We all got on board with the Tank fans and said, we're looking forward to the Roach Tank rematch, right? Even though we wanted to see Shakur, we're like, man, we want to see that fight. That fight was awesome. And then to see Tank dismiss that fight, jump into this Jake Paul fight as his fans are fighting for his reputation out in these streets. And now, as the fans are kind of like gloomy and pushing back and saying, Tank, respectfully, man, we're your fans. Yo, what's up with the Shakur fight? What's up with it? They saying you're scared. We out here by ourselves. And then Tank to just turn up on them like, y'all need to shut up and be fans. I'm watching from the outside looking in and I'm going, poor fans. I'm laughing at you guys. I'm not going to lie to you because you guys know you've been pretty damn mean to us, right? You guys know you've been mean to us. So I am laughing at you guys, but at the same exact time, I do feel a little bad for his fans because most people who are not Tank Davis fans have completely tapped out of the Tank Davis business. We have other things to entertain us. Boxing is doing so great. We're not Tank's not the end all be all. We don't care. We genuinely just don't care. But we are watching you fans go through it. I'm watching you guys on your channels and in your spaces as Tank continues to disappoint you guys and double down, triple down, quadruple down on the fact that he's not going to make these fights and that he's probably going to leave you guys high and dry and that he's fighting Jake Paul and that you guys are going to, I know you guys are going to watch this fight on November 14th on Friday and you're going to try your best to root for Tank. You're going to try your best to root for Tank, and you're looking for Tank to do something special. I am too, if it makes you guys feel any better. I want to see Tank set up Jake Paul. I want to see him do something special, bro. I'm not going to lie to you, but I ain't tripping. He doesn't need to fight Shakur. And guess what? Shakur ain't tripping. Devin ain't tripping. Tio ain't tripping. Lamont Roach ain't tripping. He just did an interview saying, I don't even give a damn. I already did what I had to do. I'm just mad that you tied me up. I'm mad that you tied me up since our fight and sat there and pushed it to June and pushed it to August and you said you wanted a rematch. You tied me up, bro. You made me inactive for a half a year, bro. I could have been doing other things. That's what I'm upset about. The boxing space in general, not the Tank fans, but the boxing space in general for the past year since that Lamont Roach first fight has gotten over Tank.
Yeah, since March.
We've all kind of gotten over it. We're not tripping on Tank like that. We're not, but I'm watching your fans. The fans are having a hard time, man. Poor Tank fans.
Not to mention that he told them go F yourselves multiple times.
He told you guys to shut up and be fans. He doubled down on it in the press conference. He said, you guys keep bringing this up. You need to shut up and be fans. And he's kind of mad at his fans and accusing his fans of turning on him. Pay attention to that press conference.
He did say that.
Right? He's like, you guys love me today and hate me tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. He ain't talking about the people who've been hating on him.
Right.
He's talking about you guys.
Yes. And then here's the other thing I'll say too, because again, we're an educational podcast when it comes to talking about this stuff. We had a discussion like 3 months ago or 2 months ago about how is Tank in your Hall of Fame? And none of us put Tank in the Hall of Fame then. But after this clown show, bro, not only is he not going into Hall of Fame in anybody's books, but the most important opinion is the public opinion. The public opinion will now take him out of one of the greatest of this. He's going to be Butterbean, bro. Tank Davis will become Butterbean to everyone. He was a guy who fought certain people at a certain time, and then when he needed the ultimate payday, he went ahead and did a clown act, right? All respect to Tank Davis, I'm just saying, the only way he gets himself out of this is if he does something that everybody wants to see, which is knock out Jake Paul. If you knock out Jake Paul, bro, you go from villain to hero in an instant.
Yeah,
right?
You save boxing from Jake Paul. Like you answer the call, right? That nobody else could do. That we wanted to see Julio Cesar Chavez potentially do. We hated him, but we were like, if you're able to do this, bro, you back. We're gonna celebrate you. If Chavez Jr. would have knocked out Jake Paul, we would have been
he would have been arrested by ICE, bro.
We would have been protesting in front of ICE. If they would have arrested him, we'd have been like,
let him go.
Let him go, right? We'd have been standing in front of that, like, let him go. Like, we was ready for Jake Paul to kind of get that humble Kool-Aid. We wanted him to get a nice glass with fresh ice in it of humble Kool-Aid, bro. You know what I'm saying? Sugar-free, you know what I'm saying?
Especially after disrespect the Mike Tyson that he did.
Yeah, but he didn't do it, right? So if Tank can do that, he makes lemonade with this situation. Outside of the money he's going to get, he makes some lemonade, right, with these lemons. And the Tank fans can breathe. Because right now, I'm telling you, if Tank Davis gets wobbled, sat on his pockets, or if this fight looks competitive, 10 3-round fights, if it looks competitive, if it's a good fight, right? If it's a good fight, it's not going to look good for Tank. You know what I'm trying to say? Because it's not supposed to be a good fight. It's not supposed to be competitive. It's supposed to be a one-sided affair. Jake is supposed to get exposed. He doesn't have the experience. He said it. He set the stage. You've been boxing since you've been 7, 20 plus years of boxing experience. I've been boxing for 5 years. This fight is not supposed to be competitive. Yeah. If it ends up being that, it's going to hurt.
Right.
And again, Ray, check this. People forget that it was June 23rd, I think, 2021. Floyd Mayweather.
I don't know what to tell you. I think he does.
So, people forget that 2021, Floyd Mayweather was 44 years old, 5'5", weighed 155 pounds when he fought Logan Paul, who was 6'1", 190 pounds, right, and 26 years old. This is the same bullshit, guys. This is the same exact crap, except here's the difference. When that happened, Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul, Floyd Mayweather was a major favorite. Floyd Mayweather was a global icon, and Logan Paul used Floyd to get more popular for his brand. This scenario feels sickening to me, at least, the way Clay said it, because he's right. They're literally using this kid, Tank Davis, who could be a generational talent for our sport. And because he's in a bad mental space for whatever the reason is, after Lamont Roach beat him, and let's call a spade, Lamont Roach beat you, bro, right? Good fight. Lamont Roach beat you, right? But whatever that space is, whatever happened to him between the Frank Martin fight, the Lamont Roach, and everything else, the Jake Paul and MVP is just taking advantage of this whole thing. Yep. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, boo-hoo, you're going to make $50 million. I'm just saying, like, for our sport, because we love it, we protect it, Clay. We speak truth, whether people like our takes or not. This is bad, man. All of this is not good, bro. It's not good for you. Don't eat that burger, Clay. Don't eat that burger, Clay.
This shit got glue on it, bro. 100%.
Listen, I'm in a great space mentally, and with boxing, I'm very pleased with boxing. Boxing is doing great, man. I don't want boxing to do nothing else but what it's been doing. I have no complaints. Just continue would be my only. If you were to stop, that'd be my only complaint. Please continue. Don't stop. That's my thing. I pray you don't stop. The Tank Davis situation, I've been at peace with Tank Davis for over a year. I'm one of those guys for the past 6 months specifically. I've been rooting for Tank to retire. Go ahead, bro. Let it go. You don't want to do this. Don't do it no more, bro. Let the belt go. If you want to come back, I even offered a solution. I said, make him a champion in recess. Don't even strip him of the belt. Give him the break he needs. Allow him to walk away like Jamel and Jamal did. Go tend to his family, tend to his mental health, and let him return when he's ready to return. Mm-hmm. Those Tank fans, you guys, you know what I'm saying?
Bro, they diabolical.
You guys are living you guys are in a bad place right now, man. It's not looking good for you guys.
How can you even defend it? That's the crazy part. With all the things going on, you know how they defend it? Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you how they defend it. And y'all going to all laugh when I say it. By deflection, by moving the needle to someone else and bashing another fighter to bring them down, to make everything about that other fighter, the spectacle of the sport that's negative and all that, and keep it moving. That's how they move the needle. That's how they hide their feelings about Tank Davis doing this fight. And that's how they keep it going. Now they want to start talking about boxing. Any other time, it's Tank. But now we want to talk about Bud. We want to talk about Devin. We want to talk about Shakur. We want to talk about Keisha.
No, but they're not, though. I mean, they're hating on.
That's what my point is. Yeah. Exactly. They're moving the needle to hate on someone else.
Right.
The narrative we pushing, we can call it whatever you want. These are all facts, and they're lined in the sand. They are stone casted, brother. These are all facts. This is what's happening in this space. I sit down, I go to work overnights, and I listen to certain things, and I'm like, damn, shaking my head. At the end of the day, we need to understand it is what it is. This guy got himself into a situation, and like Clay said, I hope he does win. If he wins, it changes some things. It better not be close, though, because they're going to be wondering, why is it close? This is a setup. He better knock this dude clean out like he said he's going to do, because the experience counts. But if he doesn't, like Clay said, anything happens other than that, get sat on his pockets, is close, or any of those things, bro, we're going to question this man. Why'd you even do this? What was the point of this? Matter of fact, we're asking that now. What's the point? Why?
Money.
But
money.
You know what? Y'all can have it.
Money's the root, and they say money is the root of all evil, and they speak to this because money is an easy way to pull somebody into a trap, bro. When you don't have nothing else, when everything is about money, you're easy to work with, bro. Like you're not hard to manage. A person who's all about money, it's like, oh, especially if you got a lot of it, right? It's like, oh man, I completely want you around. Why? Because you are dialed in to be a perfect crash dummy for me. When I find something I need your dummy ass to crash into, I know exactly who to call, and you're going to be right there for me because you're so driven by money that you allow anything to happen with you. You allow your butt to get played with. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right now, you know what I'm saying?
Yo,
Right
I'm
now,
sorry.
Hey,
that
go
was
speak
shocking.
on it, Clay. You're telling the truth, bro.
When somebody's all about money, it's a dangerous place to be. You got to have more going for you than money. Somebody like Tank Davis did not have to be. He did not have to and doesn't need to allow money to move him like he's moving right now. Why? A lot of people out there are really poor and need money and will compromise some of their integrity to get money because their family's well-being's on the line, right? Like I'm talking about the extreme parts of the world where you see people do a little something strange for some change. You know what I'm saying? Because they out here trying to survive. But then you got people who just the greed comes in and destroys him. Tank Davis is not somebody who's strapped for cash, and he's not somebody who doesn't have plenty of options on the table to make some cash. Is it going to be as much money as a Jake Paul fight? I don't know what Jake is paying you, bro, but
they say 50 million, Clay.
Fine, whatever it is, you could have fought Shakur and probably pulled a 30 bag. You know what I'm saying? He probably could have caught a 30 pack, right? Quick little 30 million, 25 million. You know what I'm saying? He could have fought Lamont Roach and walked away with a quick 7 to 10 million guaranteed in back end money. He has ways to make money, bro. He did not need to jump into this fight with Jake Paul, bro. He just didn't. And I know all the people who want to just, if you were in the same position, this, that, and the other, I don't know.
No.
I don't know that because at the end of the day, if we're being honest, when you have a lot of options on the table, right now, I've took a step back in my life to do something different, right? So money isn't the end all be all. It's important. I don't want to disregard it or dismiss it. I get it. We are in America. I'm not delusional.
But what's the difference between 35 million and 50 million, Clay?
So here's my question to it. Is the money worth? They say I heard lastly 40 million, right? But is it worth having a possible brain hemorrhage or damage or some type of thing that can knock you off your game where you can never box again?
Or is it worth your entire reputation walking around the rest of your life as the midget clown who fought? I mean, like seriously, like in all seriousness, Ray, the skill level of Gervonta Davis, he shouldn't even be touched because you saw what 44-year-old Floyd Mayweather did to a 6'1", 26-year-old novice, and Floyd played with him, bro. And Floyd even said, I could have knocked him out, but I kind of wanted to carry him.
Yeah,
that's what
his health. He's not risking his health. That's not what this is. He's not risking. He's risking his reputation. His health. He's too nice. I don't think he's risking his health. I think all these fighters are risking their health. And I'm be real with you. There's an argument there to say that Tank is taking less risk against his health than, let's say, a Devin going against Brian Norman Jr.
Yes.
Or let's say, right? Like, this is two different conversations. This is not about, you're going to put your health on the line with Jake Paul. That's not what we're concerned about. Or concerned about anything. Nah, it's your reputation, bro. He more than likely won't get hurt in this fight. He more than likely won't even get hit with anything.
If he actually tries, he shouldn't even get touched at all, man.
100%.
We could break this down. Like if we, and we're not going to make the show this today, but we could break this down on a technical level. And let's be honest, we already know that if you're experienced at closing in distance, then you don't get hurt on the inside. And Jake Paul isn't experienced enough to be able to be the type of boxer that a Devin Haney is. So stop playing around, guys. Size isn't the end all to end all. Everybody knows this in boxing. Skills pays the bills. So yes, as boxing aficionados on this show, we expect Tank Davis to whoop his ass. Our problem is the way he's talking. He's talking like I'm already out of the game, and the only reason why I'm even really doing this is to set up my kids, so I don't even know if I'm going to try. And that, sir, is disrespectful. You're basically telling us you don't know you're going to try until November 14th?
I mean,
it's disrespectful to his fans, man. And like I said earlier, just about 20 minutes ago, just to say that I don't feel bad for Tank. I have no problem with Tank. He could do whatever he wants to do. But his fans, he has played them dudes like a effing fiddle, bro. Like it's sad because the people closer to you, right? And I look at his fans to a certain degree. It maybe seems like a little far reach, but I kind of look at his fans like his woman. And like, you know what I mean? It's like, look at the way he's treating his fans. Like, how do you treat your woman? Like, how do you treat your support your support, the people who love on you and support on you and fight for you. Look how you're treating them, because you're not treating us that way, because you don't even have nothing to say to us, because we've been on the side of the conversation that we've been on. You ain't telling us nothing. You know what I'm saying? We're not asking you if you're going to fight Shakur. Your fans are. We don't care if you fight Shakur. Shakur ain't asking you to fight him no more. You know what I'm saying? Shakur just wants to make it clear. And shout out to Showbiz, who spoke on this and said what that whole entire Shakur Steven Espinoza situation was. That was Shakur clearing the air. Like he said, I'm negotiating with Tio. That's a fight I'm about to get into, right? But I wanted to be clear from the horse's mouth. You tell these people, y'all ain't offering me no fight. You tell these people that that's not what's been happening. Tank is getting ready to fight Jake Paul right now. He's not even going to fight his rematch with Lamont Roach. If I'm tell these people, am I on the plans? Tell these people, did you send me an offer? I'm free. I'm letting you know right now, if it has to be, I'll fight him now. But we know that's not going to happen. He just wanted to communicate to the space that I'm moving on with my career. And stop with the weak narratives that I'm moving and I'm ducking and I'm not trying to make fights happen. Stop. It's nonsense. The guy don't want to fight me for whatever his reason is. I don't even give a damn no more at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
That's what I was. But guys, it's about that time. We're hitting the three hour, 15-minute mark. I got stuff to do here that I didn't do earlier. I've been caught in the crazy eye from the wifey right now. You don't even know how I've been living over here, ignoring and putting my game face on and doing this show. Meanwhile, I'm ready to. I got issues over here. I got problems. One of y'all feel free to give me a call when this is done, so I can have.
I'm not getting in the car with you. I'll send you an Uber.
You'll be on the phone. It is what it is.
Great show, Clay. Great show.
I'll send you an Uber if you need it.
Yeah.
Well,
great guest. Thank you to JR of the Boxing Source for joining us today. That was cool. Great conversation as always. I'm glad we were able to get off of our chest how we really feel about this whole clown show that's about to happen. And yeah, like Clay said, we're probably going to end up watching it anyways because we have to support the good boxers in this. We are
going to watch it with no shame in our game. Stop. And by the way, stop doing that. Stop coming over here telling us stop watching it. Dan, what do you watch? Shut up. We're watching it because we can, bro. Why are you?
Y'all don't need to watch it.
Watching.
Y'all don't need to watch it. Y'all the ones that's disgusting.
And we're gonna talk about it the next day. So shut that nonsense up, bro. You can't tell. We're gonna watch the spectacle like the rest of y'all gonna do, but it don't mean we can't speak truth to power, bro, and keep it 100 on here, bro, and speak what it is, bro. Don't tell me what to do. Get out of here with that nonsense.
If you don't like it, kiss my grits.
Yeah, straight up. Be watching. I might even do a live on it. Stop playing with me. I'm a spirit. Come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Shout out to everybody in the building. Shout out to all the super chats we got in the building. Chris Legg, Adel Choice, CJ Rich, Pop Shop Talk, Gavin Goins. Appreciate the support and the sponsorship on the channel. The color always helps, man. Thank you for supporting the platform. I know there's a lot of places you could choose to be, but you're here. Remember to hit the like button before you leave out of here. Make sure you did do it. If you didn't do it, hit the like button. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, take a moment to go ahead and do that as well. Hit the subscribe button, hit your bell notifications, all that good stuff so you get notified when we're going up and doing these type of lives and dropping content. I appreciate all you guys, man. That's my word. It's your boy Clay. It's Ray. It's Angelo. It's ATP Combat Media Show. And at the end of the day, at this point,
we out.